Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Anthony Hartwig here with a Wednesday edition of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet. And no, I am never alone to answer the theme song of this show. Ty Bartell always with me, and he joins me today. Staying on brand a little bit, blank white background. And Ty, you have informed me that this room at Kent State resembles far more of a prison cell than the one that we poke fun at you for
Yeah, you want an actual prison cell. This is the extent of the room.
Dude.
You got table and literally nothing around. But you know what? We make it work however we can. We go on Running Point 12 o'clock, and I make sure I'm there on time and on target, whether it's from Kent State or from my own prison cell in my own house.
It looks like just like a own little personal cubbyhole almost.
Yeah, you know what? It ain't too bad. It ain't too bad. I think we can make it work, or we might start touring Kent State if I could find some other locations throughout the rest of the year.
I'm surprised there's not like bars on the window.
Yeah, you would think there should be, or a lock on the door. I think the door only locks from the outside, so I'm a little bit worried about that, but we'll see. If I hear a click on the door, I might get a little bit worried, but we'll see.
Someone's going to be watching, disagree with what you say, and then lock you in that door. Oh,
that'd be pretty cool. Get a following. I'll have it on a big screen right outside here so everyone can see it.
That would be cool. Running Point live from Kent State University. Want to remind everybody the comments today are live, brought to you by Boardman Mitsubishi. Whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you, and we can pop it up on the screen. And Ty, we got a lot of results from last night to talk about, and we should probably start on the soccer field because the most anticipated match of the night came in Salem, where the Salem girls were hosting state-ranked South Range, and Salem took this game over very early and never released control. 3-1, they beat South Range. They stay undefeated. This is a statement for the Quakers.
And great job by Coach Bailey over there, too, doing a phenomenal job dual coaching both teams and finding success in both areas. And, I mean, for the girls team to be undefeated, another big win on their docket, I mean, it just goes to show that, I mean, Coach Bailey and his staff, they said before the season started, they're a bunch of soccer nuts and that they were going to figure things out as the season went along. And I don't know if they're taking it day by day, week by week, or they had a whole plan going into this season. I think they had a kind of a blueprint of what they wanted to do, and they're kind of just figuring out as they go along, but hey, it's working, man.
And it would be really interesting to hear how they handled last night, because the girls played South Range, but the boys were also on action on the road at Marlington. So, with 3 people, they had to split up somehow, so it would be interesting to see how they did that.
It's an incredible coaching staff over there at Salem. And you know what? I mean, for those 3 to be able to split up 2 whole soccer teams and to be able to find success in both of them, that's truly something special over there for the Salem Quakers, that they have such a phenomenal coaching staff that keeps the culture the same across both the boys and girls programs. So that way soccer is a unified whole now in Salem, and it's a program, it's a unified whole, and you're bringing kids up together. And that's one beautiful thing that you notice too, because in soccer you have the dual the dual leagues where you see boys and girls playing at a young age. And that's a way you could kind of bring them up to in the Salem program at a young age, start them, and then you can bring them under the same program, same tutelage of having Coach Bailey. We'll hope that he's able to stay on and keep on with the program as long as he can, as I'm sure it's tasking work and it's hard, but I mean, definitely at least for this year. And if he could set in some culture for both teams and kind of set a standard for the programs, both programs, to where it's under kind of one banner, I think that only helps the soccer program in Salem.
Yeah, Riley Hutton, hat trick, so we have to tip the hat to her. 3 goals, all 3 goals for Salem scored by Mrs. Hutton, and what a performance from her. You'll look at South Range, their lone goal was scored by Gabby Lamparty, who left the game very, very early in the game and then came back very late in the game and scored the goal very late on a an injured leg. So she was feeling it. She came back in the waning seconds of the game, scored the team's only goal. It says toughness when you're you're limping, you're hobbling, you're working your way back to getting on the field. You do, and you end up scoring a goal with the midnight hour, the time ticking down. You're still able to help your team contribute and get a goal into the back of the net.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, when you could play carry offense like that and basically carry your team to those big victories, that's the type of leadership and that's the type of tenacity you look for in players too, especially at that high school level. And having those type of players where they can go out there and kind of just steal the show themselves and provide all the offense you need for the team. And then the team can play good enough defense to kind of hold it from that point on. That spells a lot of success too. And I think that's part of why Salem is going to be so successful this year and why the girls have been so successful to this point, is that there's a lot of weapons and there's a lot of threats on that team. But any given night, any one of those threats can play takeover ball too. And that's the scary thing about Salem.
Both teams right back in action tonight. Quakers go back in the league play. They will host Marlington, I believe, at 7 o'clock at Sabo Stadium. And South Range will also be in conference play. They are also hosting Lakeview. So both teams returning to conference play tonight. Both teams back at home. Well, I should say South Range back at home, Salem staying home. Another big soccer score, one of the eye-popping ones. Poland boys put it to South Range last night, 6-1. And South Range's lone goal was scored on a late penalty kick. So it was a very dominating performance by Poland. 3 goals in the first half, 3 goals in the second. And they're starting to prove why they're one of the top teams in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, that was a statement victory against a very good program and a very good school in South Range and Poland, needing those type of victories to stay state ranked and stay up in the polls. And I mean, showing exactly why they need to be in that discussion every single week. And I mean, again, proving it against another good powerhouse school.
Yeah, a powerhouse indeed. I mean, South Range, remember, last year played for the regional championship against Mooney. So not a slouch in South Range. Poland was able to just dominate this game. And they got offensive contributions. There you go. There it is. I need a little help from my friends every now and then, but they got goals from Wyatt Bobby. They got goals from Joey Ibaris. They got goal from Noah Huda. They got 2 goals from Aiden Davis, and then 2 goals for Tyler Antel. So weapons all over the place, and Poland was using a little bit of everything, a little bit of Wyatt Bobby, a little bit of Noah Huda, and then a little bit of some other pieces too, to really make that a balanced attack.
Yeah, absolutely. And, balanced is the perfect way to describe how that offense runs. And I think that's part of the reason why they're going to be deep into the state conversation late in the year, because it's a balanced approach all around. And it's a team that you have to go out there and face. And that's the problem with facing them, is that when you have to go out there and face a whole team of guys that could all hurt you on both ends of the field, right, it becomes a lot harder to beat them as a team in a unified whole.
It's incredible. We talked to Brian Garkar, head coach, earlier on the show a couple weeks ago. they lost so many seniors last year, but they have so many seniors this year too. You don't see that too often, losing a big senior class and then just backing it up with another big senior class. And, you know, a lot of people probably looked on paper last year and said, oh, man, Poland's window is closing. Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely not. And you know what? Doing a fantastic job keeping it up. And that's just the mark of making a great program, not just having great teams. Great teams last a year or two. Great programs last almost forever. And they're able to adjust and bring in new classes. And just what you're seeing with Poland. And you lose a senior class, you bring in a senior class of almost equally or if not stronger standards. And that's just the mark of building a good program, but it starts young too. So don't just think it started in the last couple of years. No, you start all the way down at Pee Wee and you bring it all the way up through that. That's just the mark of building a good program. And, you know, Poland has done a great job at that.
Are you saying that like diamonds, programs are forever?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. There you go.
Mr. Bond. See, we get pop references here at pop culture references here at Running Point. Don't worry about that. Let's move into some volleyball scores. There was a lot of action on the volleyball court last night, and we'll start with where I was at in Lowville. Western Reserve battled through a very slow start to get a dominating sweep over the Rockets. Final scores in the sets, 25-17, 25-13, 25-6. Ty, this was a match where Lowville jumped out to a 10-3 lead in set number one, and then Western Reserve won that set 25-17, and they really never relinquished control after grabbing it in that first set.
And I mean, just taking full advantage and not letting a team back into it after you grab that set advantage, going all the way, full head of steam through it, and displaying a dominant victory yet again. And I mean, exactly what you expect to see from some of the best volleyball teams in the area. They don't let many teams stick around.
And I talked to both coaches after the game candidly, you know, off the record. And they were both saying that in the volleyball season, the game after the Canfield Fair is always the hardest because they haven't had practice all weekend. They can't have practice on Labor Day. And you saw both sides have a little bit of that lag from, you know, being out of the volleyball routine for a couple of days. And it's true, you don't think about it, but you know that game right after Canfield Fair time, it's a tough one.
Not to mention, you're probably sitting with a couple pounds of fries and all kinds of other fair foods sitting in you. So it takes a little bit of time to readjust. But no, I can imagine that too. When you don't have that practice and you have that long layoff, we talk about how sometimes rest is a great thing in sports. Well, sometimes it's not the greatest thing in sports. Sometimes long layoffs can ultimately in the end hurt you a little bit and make you a little bit rusty. And sometimes that's the case too. And it seems to be the case too from what we're hearing from a lot of area teams and coaches due to the Canfield Fair. Some schools I know used to open up after the Canfield Fair, but to my knowledge, I'm not sure how many are opening too. There's not too many that open after now.
When I was at South Range, this is me personally, we didn't go to school until yesterday. The Tuesday after the Canfield Fair.
See, when we went at Fitch, it was always 2 weeks or a week and a half, I think, prior to the fair we would start.
Now I think, and now I'm not sure on this, but I think South Range starts the week before the fair and then takes the next week off for the fair. And then goes.
That's what we did. We would take a week off, but we would start like a week or 2 weeks before the fair and take one random week off, which is also a little weird because now you're just taking a week off of school.
It's weird because you're getting in that school routine. I wouldn't like it if I was on his. You're getting in that school routine, and then you have to stop and go back, and it's like, oh man.
They don't do a whole lot. They never did a whole lot, though, in the first 2 weeks, and I kind of liked it because we got to get out in May then at the end of the year because it was able to push it back instead of June. So I did like that.
This is my preference when I was in high school because a lot of schools did what you guys did when I was in high school. You know, they went before South Range. They let out before South Range, and I always was the component here, especially here in Northeast Ohio. I liked going later in the year, like going in September and ending at the first week of June. Because here in Ohio, sometimes winter isn't over in May. Like, let's just be honest. Sometimes we get snow in May. It's happened your summer really doesn't start until June. So I always figured like, I'm kind of okay with not getting off until June.
Yeah, for me though, I mean, by end of May, you don't really have to worry about the snow threat. I hear what you mean because we've had plenty of April snows.
I very adamantly remember a district, this was like maybe a year after I was out of high school, district softball baseball tournament in the snow. And
I believe it too. I mean, especially northern parts too. And when you get up near the lake, and there has been snow in May, but I mean, at least in recent years, it seems like our summers have been a lot warmer too. I don't know. I've always been a fan of getting back early, but I do understand come time around, it does suck going back to school in August, especially some of these schools too. And some of these schools and some of these older buildings actually aren't really fitted very well with air conditioning either, because they're so used to being able to perform in the fall and the winter, so they don't use air conditioning. You just open the windows.
I spent 11 out of 12 years in the old South Range buildings.
And I'm sure they didn't have air conditioning. Not many of those older buildings did not. And it's brutal. And going back, especially in like an August month, where August is, I think, historically one of the hottest months in Ohio, and you have those 90-degree days. Heck, we just did a few weeks ago. But it's so crazy how literally in a span of a week, 2 weeks, Ohio can just flip like that. We were summer 2 weeks ago, and now we're fall immediately because we're in September now.
Some stats for this Western Reserve Louisville game, by the way. Lisa Eichert was really phenomenal. The sophomore shined for Western Reserve, 17 kills, 8 digs on the night. Olivia Hughes also in double figures, 10 kills, 9 digs. Gianna Perry, and you have to do that with a French accent because her name is Paris. She 22 assists and 3 kills. Really aggressive setter, does a good job dumping when she's in the front row. So she did a good job. Louisville. Sydney Bryce was hitting hard, couldn't get a lot to fall because Western Reserve was playing good defense. A lot of good swings from the lefty on the outside, 5 kills for her. Sammy Kelly with 13 service points, including the 5-0 rally to start the match in set 1. So those were the stats for the Rockets. They struggled to get kills. They had 8 total kills as a team. It was a rough night for their offense, but they were hitting the ball hard. Western Reserve was just playing really good defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from what I read too, and what I saw, and I didn't get to watch the match last night because unfortunately I was working, but I saw it too. But I mean, 3-0, and I mean, Western Reserve doing what Western Reserve does. I mean, being a dominant team on volleyball like they are perennially every single year, and one of those teams that you expect to be at the tops of their division at the end of every year, and they're proving it once again coming into the season, being dominating as usual. And you think after what they lost last year that they'd be a little bit hindered. Never is Western Reserve hindered on volleyball. They always figure out ways to stay even and stay the same on what they are every single year and be successful because it's a successful program in Western Reserve.
Oh, when you have someone named Hughes playing for your volleyball team, it's an advantage. I mean, we all know that family. Leah Hughes went and had a successful career at Youngstown State. Her sister Alexis was also going into Youngstown State for volleyball. And Olivia, now in her sophomore season, not looking like she's going to let up anytime soon. So, that whole family at Western Reserve. And now Aaliyah, of course, the coach at Poland. It's a volleyball family, and they're not disappointing either with the youngest at Reserve.
No, absolutely not. And you must be really excited if you're a Western Reserve fan, knowing you still got her this year and then 2 more years of eligibility left. So, I mean, that Western Reserve is going to be set up for years to come in volleyball, and they're probably going to be set up for years after that because as Hughes goes into her junior year and her senior year, they're already grooming the next set of freshmen and sophomores that are in 7th and 8th grade to come up. That's just what Western Reserve does.
Her and Lisa Eichert are both sophomores, and they're their kill leader right now. Their offense is not going anywhere for a little bit.
Yeah, and that's exactly why Western Reserve has been able to stay successful for so many years. And you talk about it now; they're already grooming the replacements for Hughes and Eichert right now. And you don't want to say replacements, but you're grooming for that next new breed to take that step after these 2 senior out. And that's part of what we talk about, building programs, and that success will in turn bring players. Once you start that and you start generating success, it makes a lot of kids want to go to the school and play volleyball for Western Reserve then.
Western Reserve back in action tonight. They are at Heartland Christian. Lowville waiting for Thursday, where they will return to league. Well, not return to league play, but continue league play they will host Sebring. They will host Sebring and look to go back to 500. Lowville 3-4 on the year. Western Reserve still undefeated at 6-0.
Western Reserve going to continue on that tough stretch too. I think they have a pretty tough schedule coming up here soon in the middle part of their season. So it's going to be interesting to see how, if I remember correctly, if my memory serves correct, I think they have a tough schedule coming up in this middle part of the season. So that's going to be interesting to see how now taking 6-0 into that. Some teams worry when they have that much success that, hey, are we really this strong? We really don't have any kinks in the armor right now or anything like that. Some teams worry about that a little bit. Let's see how Western Reserve plays going into the middle part of the season now.
Ty Crestview continues to impress on the volleyball court. They are still undefeated. They took care of Camel in straight sets. The scores 25-7, 25-7, 25-15. Grace Hour and Lucy Montgomery both finished with 9 kills. Very balanced offense, and they both set Hour with 11 assists and Montgomery with 7. Abby Imps, the freshman, continues to play great net defense. She finished with 5 kills and 4 blocks. And, we talked about the Hughes family at Western Reserve. The Imps family is someone that volleyball fans know very well at Crestview. Emily Imps playing at YSU. And then, her sister Molly graduating last year, did a lot of great things for the program. Here comes freshman Abby Imps to build up that family name yet again. And she's having a great freshman campaign.
Yeah, and already, and that's impressive too when you're able to have that kind of year as a freshman. And that you're something special if you're starting at varsity and you're getting production like that out of a freshman, and it really kind of makes coaches giddy for the next few years, knowing that wow, they're coming in with all this raw talent and they're already being a huge contributing factor as a freshman. As a freshman, folks, these are 14-year-old, 15-year-old kids. Wait until this becomes a woman at 17, 18, her senior year now. Oh, my goodness. That's what we're talking about, though, when you see the growth and when these kids come in. Yes, these freshmen that are very talented, they have that raw talent, but they still have potential, too. Even being as good as they are, they can still get better. And that's the thing with Emsh, I think, is that her ceiling seems limitless right now. And I think for Crestview, it's just another case of just being excited for the next few years.
She might have to watch her head on some small ceilings because – unofficially, I think she's about 6'2", which would probably put her taller than her sisters. I think Emily is about 6'1", Molly probably about 6 foot. Abby, from my one time getting to see her this year, looks like she's taller than both.
Yeah, and fantastic height too. And not technically done. I think girls still they can continue growing 15-ish. So maybe not technically done, but still, even if she is at 6'2", fantastic height, especially for volleyball too. That helps with the net defense, that helps with getting kills. Going forward, it's gonna be huge for Crestview to have that height and that skill level on their team.
I don't know what Crestview's next 4 years in their development programs look like. But if they can bring up someone else that's also in the 6 foot, 5'9", 5'10" range, and then all of a sudden they can put Abby Imch in an outside hitter role instead of the middle. Oh my gosh, the 6'2" outside hitter. In Division III.
And we're seeing what they're doing in Division I with Jocelyn Jordan.
That's talking about competing with the teams that they're going to see in regionals. You go in Independence and Smithville and teams like that you're going to see in Barberton. They have outside hitters that are 5'10", 6 foot. So, if you have the ability in the next couple of years to slide Abby Imch to an outside hitter role at 6'2", you're going to start competing really well in Barberton.
And that very well might be the goal going forward if you are Crestview, is to try to slide her to that outside role, knowing that you still got her for 3 years. I'd expect to see her move around. Absolutely, and they're going to try to experiment with some things, I think, for sure, unless she's not receptive to it. But I don't see why not, because it's an opportunity to get way more kills if she moves to the outside.
And it's an opportunity to get way more looks at Division I colleges, because Division I is 6'2" is kind of below average for a middle block. It's really good for an outside hitter.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You get looks at outside from 6'2", then you're going to be sitting pretty. Ty, this sets up a very, very big matchup on Thursday. Crestview won last night. They are 7-0. Garfield beat Newton Falls last night. They are 6-0. I'm waiting for the stats for that Newton Falls Garfield game, so we don't have the official stats for that. But when you look at the G-Men, they're putting together a strong season, and these two teams are about to collide on Thursday night. Crestview Garfield in Garrettsville, 6-0 versus 7-0. It's a big one.
Yeah, and something's got to give in that matchup, and we'll see. I mean, we'll have to see with the Lady Rebels coming in with the hot start that they've already have, and now that we're happy to have Garrettsville under our tutelage, and what they're doing in both volleyball and football right now is absolutely incredible. As we're so happy to have Garrettsville Garfield under the YSN banner, as they are representing well in both sports right now.
And you look at the season stats for Garfield just to get a scope of kind of who's doing the stuff for the G-Men. And, Gabby Bernard, 74 kills already in the season. She's hitting at a percentage of 88%. Only 5 errors on the year. Very efficient hitter for Garfield. And then they have a couple of more with 50, 21, 13. So they're pretty well balanced, but also rely pretty heavily on Bernard. You look at their blocking, 38 blocks as a team. Impressive on the net. And then you look at their defense, already 277 digs as a team, and they're pretty spread out. Their digs, they have no one that has a lead. Like their team leader in digs only has 11 more than the next person. Very well-balanced back row defensive team. 277 digs already on the season for a team. Only 6 games in. That's a big number.
That's a huge number, and it's just a sign of what's to come, I think. And knowing that getting kills on this team is not going to be easy, and they're going to go low, and they're going to be able to dig it out. And you know what? Get right into the rotation offensively, and that's the scary part about them, is that they're able to react, and they're able to turn defense into offense real quickly and get into systems. So that's the thing with Crestview, and what I think you're going to have to see from players like Emsch. And I mean, it's going to be a little bit more, as we saw, I think, too, in the Canfield-Fitch game. Canfield was able to get a little bit of quick points, going with the softer touch kills over, and really paying attention to see what Garfield does on defense. If they're going to crowd the net, and they're going to be up on the net, and they're going to leave you that pocket in between the back row and up in front of the net, just do some soft hits in between that, and you could make some kills up that way. But I mean, looking at what Garfield's been able to do, they're able to react pretty well on defense. So this looks to be a very good matchup, and one of the marquee matchups in volleyball this week.
It's big. It's a big time matchup, and it could mean who gets actually right now it will be who gets a foothold at the top of that MVAC. Now, obviously, if they both take care of business the rest of the way, that second meeting will be ever more important, and that will be in Crestview. That'll be a big one.
Absolutely. It's going to be tough for Crestview to come into Garfield and get the win, but you know what? This might be a 5-set match in the making going forward. So definitely one of the matches I think you should keep your eye on going forward.
I don't know what to expect. I haven't seen Garfield on tape. I'm only looking at their season stats. I know how dominant Crestview has been this year. They've only lost 2 sets in a 5-set win over East Liverpool. Wow. It's exciting. It's an exciting matchup on the week. That'll be Thursday in Garrettsville, Garfield. We will take our first break of the day. Be back with more results and recaps of action from last night next on YSNLive.com Running Point. Brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring. And, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, shop with confidence knowing we're ready to go the extra mile for you. With the largest selection of used vehicles in the Valley, backed by the Greenwood Advantage Warranty. Every one of our vehicles has undergone our own 126-point inspection, so it passes the most important inspection, yours. No other dealership has the extra inventory, gives you extra for your trade, and goes the extra mile for you. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
For a great vehicle and a great experience, come to Boardman Mitsubishi today. As always, our full lineup of Mitsubishi models comes with a standard 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Boardman Mitsubishi, your hometown Mitsubishi dealer since 1999.
Coca's Pizza, always supporting our community and our local athletes. Stop in on game day or score big and have it delivered right to your door. Check out our daily specials at cocaspizza.com. That's Coca's Pizza, we serve it hot.
At Hubbard Chevrolet, Hubbard can help you get the financing you need regardless of your situation. I'm Tony Page, and I've helped thousands of customers in Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania buy a vehicle. Visit HubbardChevy.com to get pre-approved. Remember, folks, Hubbard can help.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University and proud.
Welcome back to the Wednesday edition of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell. And Ty, we continue to go through some results from last night. Springfield volleyball found themselves in a very competitive match with Sebring. They were able to come away with a 4-set victory. The final scores for that, 25-19. 25-17, 24-26, 26-24. So Sebring really pushing the Tigers those last two sets after looking like the Tigers were going to dominate 2-0. Sebring won the third 24-26 and then dropped the fourth 26-24. So Trojans fighting back, couldn't quite finish, but a big competitive matchup inside the MVAC.
That's why it's big to grab those big 2-0 lead. That way you have room for error going forward, and we see a lot of teams doing that. It's hard to sweep 3 straight sets, man, because teams can adjust. So that's why it's ever important. If you could grab a 2-0 lead, you have a little bit of wiggle room for error. And luckily, Sebring Sebring was able to pull it out in that third one, but Springfield was Springfield was able to hold out in that fourth one in another close matchup. But I mean, Sebring was able to pull it out in the third set, and Springfield able to finally close it out in set number 4 after a very close 26-24 sets, as they were able to finally win by 2.
A very balanced offense for Springfield. J.C. Mullen with 7 kills, but Maddie Lesnack and Sarah Pontius both with 6 right behind her. Lesnack finished with 6 aces as well as a pair of blocks, so she filled the stat column really well. Lesnack starting to find a little bit of a groove. We saw Springfield kind of struggle early in the season, but now they're starting to find an offensive rhythm. And, when you get Lesnack and Mullen both going, Coach Jones talked earlier, we've had her on the program. She's talked about what those two mean to her program. Both juniors, both leaders, both captains, and they're starting to find a little bit of a groove for the Tigers offense.
Yeah, and it's just nice to see, too. I mean, this will give them a little bit of confidence that they were able to hold off the Trojans and gain another victory, too, on the season. So definitely things to look forward to going forward for the Springfield Tigers.
Sammy McKim stepped into the lineup. This is the first time we've heard from her in the stat sheet, but she played great defense for the Tigers, 20 digs in that back row, keeping the Sebring hitters off the floor. You're stepping into a lineup. I don't know if that was her first start or if that was just the first time she did enough to get into the stat sheet, but a big moment for Sammy McKim getting 20 digs on the night for her team.
Yeah, huge too, and very, very big when a team's trying to lead a comeback like that, trying to really stave off and keep the lead, and that's huge too, because when teams are trying to make that comeback, especially after winning set 3, backs against the wall, they get a lot more aggressive, and that means you need to play a lot better defense, and getting digs like that, especially 20 of them, huge.
And I know getting a dig, especially a big-time dig, can really turn momentum because, that hitter goes up, thinks he gets a solid swing on the ball, then all of a sudden you see someone come up, be in perfect position, pop the ball in the air. And the momentum switches because that ball drops. All of a sudden the other team gets the momentum of a big kill. Digs can be very momentous, even though they don't end the rally and you still have work to do after a dig. I think people don't give digs enough credit for how much momentum they can really turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's another one of those big areas in a volleyball game too, where everyone serves a purpose and everyone can really turn momentum. And it goes for any aspect in volleyball, but digs especially too. Big defensive plays right up there with a block too. It's a defensive play that can get your offense right into rhythm too. And that's the biggest thing is that it serves as both too. And that's the biggest thing. If you can get 20 digs in a single game, you're doing something right.
Blake Thomas led the Trojans with 8 kills, and that was a match high, by the way. Olivia Hawk had a nice night with 6 kills, and Mallory Harshman set the offense well for Sebring, 13 assists for her. Delaney Reg led the defense of Sebring with 10 digs. So, Sebring, a good effort. They go to Lowville on Thursday. They're trying to bounce back and put something together, and we talked in their preview. They have a lot of pieces that can hurt people.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of pieces that can hurt people. And I mean, just doing exactly what we expected them to do going into this season.
So Sebring will travel to Lowville. Springfield goes outside of the MVAC tonight. They are traveling to Struthers. So a big 3 games in 3 days stretch for the Tigers as they play tonight, last night, and then they'll be back in the MVAC on Thursday. So 3 games in 3 days for Springfield. they continue that stretch tonight at Struthers. You've seen Struthers play. You're talking about the Springfield team who's starting to put things together. This could be a very interesting matchup between two teams that play in different divisions.
Yeah, it could definitely be a very interesting matchup, as we're going to have to see how Springfield fares against the Wildcats. But the Wildcats have a very young team trying to figure things out right now, but they have a very good also JV class too that has a tremendous record, if I'm not mistaken right now, their junior varsity class. So they have a lot of young players coming up. Just part of that movement that Struthers is making. And you want to talk about like football aspect, we talked about where Jefferson was a couple years ago and what they're doing now. You're looking at Struthers, they're about where Jefferson was, I think, about last year. They have a couple pieces that are, I think, going to come up from the JV team here in the next year or two, and from 8th grade as well. And I think they're going to serve as some pretty big pieces. But I think the pieces that they have there right now are still, it's a very good young team, and they have a very good young foundation. And some of the senior leaders are really helping out along with that, trying to, instill these players with as much knowledge as they can and continue to build that program.
They lost a lot of seniors last year. They're trying to rebound from that, is Struthers. But you see improvement from them every night. We'll talk a little bit about their results from last night later. But first, let's get back into the MVAC. McDonald with an impressive sweep over Jackson Milton. 3 very competitive sets. McDonald is still 5-1 on the season, so they're still trying to keep pace with Western Reserve. The scores of the 3 sets in this match, 26-24, 25-18, 25-22. Megan Klockner, she continues to punch the clock, no pun intended. Double-double for her, finishing with 20 digs and 17 assists. You got Gianna Constantino. She finished the night with the team lead in kills with 10. She was also at a double-double. She had 18 digs. Maria Razil, 3rd Blue Devil to get a double-double on the night. So they were double-doubles everywhere. Razil had 14 assists and 10 kills. And then Sherry Liz Bonilla, 33 digs on the night. That's a big number. A lot of big stats for McDonald last night in this win over Jackson Milton. And they did every bit of it when you look at the scores of the 3 sets.
Yeah, absolutely. Jackson Milton not going down without a fight either. And I mean, McDonald doing what they needed to do to gain a victory and not let Jackson Milton back in that game, because Jackson Milton was knocking on the door the whole game, it seemed like, every single set. But McDonald able to effectively and emphatically slam the door shut on Jackson Milton and come away with yet again another victory, and needing, like you said, a big night from multiple players.
I'm telling you, you do not see a lot of matches in the volleyball world with 3 people in double-doubles. And that's what McDonald did last night. Very impressive. Kylie Wilson led the Blue Jays with 10 kills. Paige Grope had 10 assists, and she served up a pair of aces. So the Blue Jays, I think, are just trying to find some balance on offense, because after those 10 kills from Wilson, a lot of drop-off from the rest of the Blue Jays offense.
Yeah, and I mean, the Blue Jays will be just fine, I think, going forward. This is still a match you could take a lot of positives away. You were very competitive in this one, and this one really was one that could have gone either way each set. So you take your positives from it, you take your losses, and you try to learn from it, and I think Blue Jays will be just fine.
I'll tell you one thing about Jackson Milton. I believe in Stephen Moore. We talk a lot about Fitch. You cover Fitch a lot. The Fitch volleyball program and culture would not be where it is if Stephen Moore didn't put in the work as the last head coach at Austintown Fitch in building that culture. So the one thing about Jackson Milton volleyball, I believe in what he's doing. It might take time, but they'll be okay.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine as well. And, it's all about building a program, and, they're starting to build one there, and, being competitive against a very good McDonald team. That's definitely a step in the right direction.
Both teams in action tonight. McDonald will travel the Southeast, and Jackson Milton will host East Canton. So both teams kind of navigating out of the league, and they're both, like Springfield earlier we talked about, they're both in a stretch of 3 games in 3 days. That's volleyball for you. You have no time to correct things. You got to get right back on the court the next day and try to self-correct, self-coach, and adjust on the fly.
Yeah, and you know what? This is going to be interesting to see how they do respond, and if they are able to make that response and make the adjustments needed, because you got to get right back into it.
McDonald is looking ever impressive. Like I said, they're trying to keep pace with Western Reserve. We move on, and still in the MVAC, a team that's trying to regain their footing. They lost an awful lot from last year, but they're still the reigning champions. And Mineral Ridge emphatically beat Waterloo last night in 3 sets, 25-11, 25-11, 25-15. The Rams finally got some really consistent offense. They were led by Ava Hewlett with 13 kills. She had 9 digs on the night as well. Faith Schneider with 8 kills and 5 aces. And Sammy Aulette with 11 digs, 21 assists. She got a double-double for the Rams, and they get back in the win column after a tough beginning to the season. They lost to Western Reserve on Thursday, and now they're starting to get some footing a little bit with some of the weapons that they are returning from last year, but they lost an awful lot of what made them really, really good a season ago.
Yeah, and but it goes back like we all constantly talk about. You need to build a program, so you need to be able to and bring in an influx of youth. When teams have players that senior out and you lose your seniors, you got to be able to look to the younger players to step up and fill those roles. And hopefully, if the program is successful enough, and hopefully if you have a good foundation down, the seniors have taught the younger players everything that they need to know to be able to step into those roles.
So Mineral Ridge will look to continue their little win streak as they go on to stay in league play on Thursday. They have the night off tonight. They will travel to McDonald, who's the team we just talked about, looking very impressive. So Mineral Ridge with another opportunity to get a big statement win inside the MVAC. Waterloo still trying for their first win. They will host Jackson Milton on Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely, and it'll be another great matchup too. We'll see if both these teams are able to bring it this one, and see if Jackson Milton makes those adjustments.
And I think that Mineral Ridge McDonald game, big morale boost if Mineral Ridge is able to win it, but also a big statement if McDonald is able to get the win and once again keep pace with Western Reserve.
Yeah, we'll have to see if McDonald is able to, and hopefully we can see that big matchup between the two Blue Devils.
Yeah, that'll be a little bit. I mean, we already saw that Western Reserve won round 1, so McDonald trying to keep pace and make that round 2 a matchup between a one-loss team and an undefeated team. If both teams take care of business the rest of the way.
Yeah, that'll be a good matchup second time around, and with how good McDonald's playing and how good Western Reserve's playing, it'll be definitely a fun one to watch later in the season.
We go inside the EOAC, Columbiana with a big win over Lisbon in straight sets. Scores there, 25-18, 26-24, 25-9. So after 2 really competitive sets, the Clippers really put it away in set 3 and said there's no chance that Lisbon is coming back on us with a 2-0 lead. Dominating the third set, 25-9.
Yeah, I mean, good way to emphatically end it and come away with another big victory in 3 sets.
Julia Rapp let the score sheet up for the Clippers everywhere. 12 kills, 4 aces, 3 blocks, 2 digs, a little bit of everything from Julia Rapp. Tori Long continues to impress in her senior season. 7 kills for her, 12 digs. Cameron Perkins was a double-double machine for the Clippers. He finished with 16 assists and 10 digs. And Columbiana continues to roll. They are 4-2 and 4-1 in the EOAC. But they have a big matchup coming on Thursday because they're welcoming in Wellsville.
Yeah, it'll be a good test to see what they're able to do inside of the EOAC, as Wellsville projected to be one of the best, as they usually are. A pretty solid team, and they look to be no different this year.
Should be a fun one on Thursday. Lisbon, they will try to bounce back. They're in action on Thursday as well. They travel to Valley Christian. Lisbon, good fight. If you're Lisbon's coach, you're probably saying we might have given up a little bit in that third set and lost a little bit of fatigue. You'd like to see 3 competitive sets if you're going to get swept. But, hey, you push them 26-24 in the second. And you're really competitive in the first against one of the top teams in the EOAC. It's got to be a bright spot for the Blue Devils.
Yep, and we'll have to see if they're able to continue building on it and continue that next step in progression.
We continue to roll through as Poland gets a big win on the road. They beat South Range in probably the most competitive game of the night, 5 sets against the Raiders. And the scores here, hold with me, 25-18. Then South Range flipped the script, dominated set 2, 25-13. Poland won a very close one in set 3, 25-23. South Range returned the favor, won set 4, 25-19. And then Poland edges the Raiders in set 5, 15-13 to get the win. Very exciting matchup, and Poland comes out on top.
Yeah, another big Poland victory against South Range as they now have
Volleyball,
2.
check. Soccer, check. So the girls' soccer team got the equalizer last week, but so far, 2-1 Poland in the fall athletics. Now the football teams still have to play, and if Poland wins, it's a tiebreaker. So
it'll be interesting too. That'll be another good matchup.
But both soccer teams and volleyball teams play each other again. So we're not done with this matchup, but so far Poland has the advantage in the fall sports.
And we know we'll be looking at all those matchups in all sports all throughout the year.
Lexi Kalakatsaros, double for her. A lot of doubles last night around the area. Volleyball is really starting to heat up. These kids are really starting to find grooves. 13 kills, 15 digs for her. And she also had 4 aces, so she served really well. Morgan Kluchar, double figures in kills. She finished with 11. Kluchar was the lead blocker. She had 5 blocks on the night. Madeline Ray was the back row leader with 16 digs. And Maddie Thomas finished with 8 assists for the Bulldogs. For South Range, Maria Primavera, she continues to have a great comeback season. She was hurt most of the year last year, and now she comes back. Another double for her. 17 kills, 17 digs. Big night for Primavera. And she also had 4 blocks, which is something that she doesn't usually lead the Raiders in blocks, but she did last night. Jamie Farron, double. Here's a shocker. 24 assists, 14 digs for her. Reagan Irons, maybe the defensive performance of the year so far. 42 digs in the back row for Reagan Irons, as that might be a lock for next week's Big Dog of the Week nominee, with a big 42 dig performance in a losing effort.
Yeah, unfortunate they were unable to come away with the victory, but it wasn't on the back of Irons, as she was giving everything she had out there to try to lead her team to victory. Just wasn't enough against the Bulldogs.
That's over 70 digs in the last 2 matches for Reagan Irons. She's really starting to feel it. But when you talk volleyball, sometimes one player with a big dig number is not exactly the best reflection on your net, because it means that a lot of stuff is getting through your block and getting to the back row and putting a lot of pressure on your libero.
Yeah, but when that pressure's on her, that she's able to answer the challenge and be up for it. Now you just know maybe the area you need to improve is on that defense, but behind you got a solid libero that's going to be there.
You have to remember the Raiders lost a really good blocker in Izzy Lamparty, trying to replace it a little bit. They have a couple of young blockers trying to find their way in. Right now, Reagan Irons picking up the back row. Once again, 42 digs on the night for her last night in the losing effort. Poland has tonight off, and they return home on Thursday to stay in the NE8. They host Niles. South Range also looking to bounce back on Thursday. They travel to Hubbard. So, South Range, Poland, 2 teams that were in the middle of the NE8. Poland comes away with a big 5-set victory.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what Poland does going forward now after a huge victory over South Range.
A lot of doubles in that one. And, obviously 5 sets give you more opportunities for that. You look at some more results going forward is Lakeview got the sweep over Struthers. They're starting to find a groove. They had a tough start to the season. They lost to Crestview, then lost to Girard, but they've won 3 in a row since. The score is there, 25-6, 25-17, 25-19. Tara Lytle, 11 kills for the Bulldogs. Tara is up for this week's Big Dogs of the Week nominee, so Lakeview fans, be sure to go vote for her. She only had 2 errors all night, so she was also very efficient. Lytle had 4 aces. Maggie Pavlansky continues to set very well. 15 assists on the night for her. She also led the defense with 7 digs. Emma Schmader with 6 kills and a block for the Bulldogs. So Lakeview, the rough start to the season, they're starting to find a little bit of their footing.
As they start to get back on track now, they need to look for that second matchup with Girard being the big one that they're circling.
And like much like McDonald, who dropped the first matchup with Western Reserve, Lakeview needs to focus on keeping pace in that NE8. Just one loss in the NE8 so far, but still some tough teams in that league that could knock off the Bulldogs before they get to that second matchup with Girard.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how Lakeview needs to respond. They can't be hyper-focused on Girard. They need to be taking it one game at a time and really focus in on their season and really just try to take, like I said, one game at a time, one set at a time as they try to put things back together and rebuild that strong foundation that they've had in years prior.
Yeah, a strong foundation indeed. They've only lost 2 NE8 games in the last 3+ seasons. Lakeview, they continue their season Wednesday, which is tonight, as they host Mooney. So getting into a little bit of non-conference play. Mooney, a team, the record is very non-representative of how good they are. And this will be a tough non-conference matchup for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what Mooney's able to put together and if they're able to pull off that upset too. And I think very capable of it. Mooney always has a good program volleyball wise, so it'll be another fun matchup on the network.
And that is once again tonight. And Struthers, we already talked about them. They will also venture outside the NE8 tonight as they will host Springfield. So 2 teams in Lakeview and Struthers that are getting into the meat of that 3 games in 3 days stretch that we continue to talk about with volleyball. As you know, Lakeview, that was their 6th game of the year. This is when the season really starts getting traction, and you really start seeing these weeks of 4 matches a week, 3 matches a week, 4 matches a week. You know, you might see a Saturday match in there too. Not a lot of practice time in the gym in the month of September for volleyball.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how these teams react with no practice.
Which teams can handle it, which teams can't. That's what makes volleyball in September so interesting, because a lot of them, 7 games maybe to this point, 8 games at the most. So none of them have really gotten into the full swing of the season yet. But this week it's starting for some of these teams, and we're seeing Lakeview and Struthers both continue that stretch of 3 games in 3 days.
And yeah, it's just going to come down to endurance. Who has more stamina, and are they going to be able to react to 3 games?
And also, your favorite saying from Coach Bailey, who can stay even? Who can stay even when you're going through that kind of stretch of, hey, maybe we lost on Tuesday. Can we stay even Wednesday and Thursday? Because we have no time to regroup as a team and fix stuff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see too. I mean, if you struggle, you can really struggle, and if you're successful, you can be really successful. So let's see how teams are and how that coaching is.
Just like the inner workings of a volleyball match, in these big stretches of the season, little mistakes can turn into big ones, and it'll be interesting to see which teams can really, maybe bounce back from a Tuesday loss and win the rest of the week, or vice versa, get a little bit too high off of a big Tuesday win and unable to keep that steam for the rest of the week.
Yeah, we'll have to see what teams are able to do so.
Very interesting as we continue this episode of Running Point. Brian Toldar coming up at 1 o'clock, the Mill Creek Golf Guru. The PGA season is over, but we are going to talk about the Ryder Cup team and what names we expect to be picked by Coach Snedeker, and it's close. Those names will be announced very shortly. We'll also talk, of course, about what's going on at Mill Creek Park and some of the high school golf results from the last week. So stay tuned to that. We'll take a quick break. And on the other end, we'll be back with Brian Tolnar next on YSN's Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Working with your family can be stressful at times, but because they're family, you know that you're going to get a loving, honest answer, even when things don't make sense to any problem. Dealing with Medicare can be confusing and overwhelming. That's why here at Myers Family Insurance, we do our best to give you honest and caring answers to all of your questions. Family, like Medicare, isn't always perfect, but when you put others first, the results can be amazing.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Notice we'll have scattered showers on Thursday.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Jimmy Sutton here, Director of Isle, Purple Cat, and Golden String. We are happy to support YSN and two of my favorite people, Scotty Mincher and Super Dave O'Malley. We are an agency that provides services for adults with disabilities. We infuse humor, passion, and joy into their lives. If you know of any folks with disabilities that need our assistance, please contact us.
Your teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Dealing with Medicare can be confusing and overwhelming. That's why here at Myers Family Insurance, we do our best to give you honest and caring answers to all of your questions. Family, like Medicare, isn't always perfect, but when you put others first, the results can be amazing.
Welcome back to the Wednesday edition of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. And like we are every Wednesday, we are joined by Brian Tolnar, the golf guru from Mill Creek Park. Brian, and we're getting him on right now. Brian, thank you so much for joining us like you do every week.
You got it. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to talk a little bit of golf and heading into the fall season. Got a lot of exciting stuff coming with the Ryder Cup on the horizon and fall golf here. The NCAA Roseanne Schwartz Invitational coming to Mill Creek on Sunday through Wednesday. Just a great way to end and cap the season of golf in the Mahoning Valley.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that we are getting to the end and we're starting to talk about the cap of the golf season. Talk about some reflections of your summer at Mill Creek and And what have been some of your favorite parts of these last couple months in a very busy couple months for Mill Creek?
Well, I think probably the best way to describe this year is don't blink because it's gone, and it's been a fast year. I know, it was seemed like the other day we were talking about Augusta and the Masters and the U.S. Open in June, and then the British Open, PGA, and then all of a sudden we've got one golf event left, talking about the Ryder Cup. No different than what's on the national scene here locally. We sort of tried to cap the year from an amateur level with the Greatest Golfer, which we hosted in August, and then the high school season starts in, and they basically have about 2 or 3 more weeks left of high school golf. It's hard to believe we're talking about the end of that, and we're heading into high school football season, college football, the NFL. Probably one of my favorite times of the year because you can get out and play, and it's not so overly hot in the morning. Come in, have the opportunity to catch an NCAA game or an NFL game. So a lot of golf left to be played the rest of this year, and based on what the weather looks like and what the extended forecast looks like coming from Channel 21 this past week, you're looking at mid 70s, possibly a couple upper 80s, all the way through October, and may even creep into November. So our season has certainly shifted a little bit when it comes from a weather standpoint. It's a little bit shorter in the spring, a little bit longer in the fall, which is great. The only thing that you fight in the fall is the daylight. But for our season, it's been you sort of blink your eyes and boom, it's gone. Next thing you know, you're talking about AJGA and Greatest Golfer. They're in the back seat now, and now we're heading into the NCAA tournament, and we've got I want to say about 5 or 6 golf outings left the rest of the year, and then it's just open golf. Family fun nights are still going strong. They'll do that through the end of October. Our PGA Junior League team, whose season ended a couple weeks ago, they're all still out playing and practicing, which is good to see, kind of on their own. Nothing, really organized for them the rest of the year. We gave them the opportunity to come out and play through the remainder of the year. And I think a lot of the kids have taken advantage, and they're excited, and I'm excited for them, and I'm excited to see where we head next year when the team gets back together. And I think we only have one kid that ages out on this past season's team that we finished second place in the Mahoning Valley League, the Youngstown League, Division I. So a lot of good things happening still. A lot of golf to be played. A lot of recreational opportunities here at the park coming up. We've got the Green Cathedral. We've got the trolley tour still going. We've got recreational hikes. I believe they have one this evening. We have a concert this evening that was a makeup, that was a rain out. So we'll have, possibly one more event from a rainout schedule standpoint up at the Morley Pavilion up at the Wick Recreation area. So a lot of very neat things happening. We're starting to gear up for Christmas at the Mill, getting our ducks in order for there. The Golf and Recreation Department, that's one of the events from a big event that our department sort of oversees. So we're kind of getting our feelers out there and things ready for that event. After about a year hiatus with the COVID, we had to shut that event down last year. It was one of those events that got sort of sucked by the wayside, which kind of stunk. But it was one of our more popular events. So, we're going to do some things a little bit newer, a little bit fresher, a little bit different when it comes to that event down there, and we're excited to see where the journey sort of leads us.
So far in the high school golf game, Brian, talk to me a little bit about some up-and-coming newcomers that you've seen in the area as far as golf is concerned. We already know the talent level that has returned from last year to this year, but talk about some new ones that you've personally gotten the chance to see and highlight a couple of those names.
Well, I think there's a couple kids. I'll say Columbiana right out of the gate. You got Rocco Crawford and you got Riley McEwen. Both of those guys played well in the Warren JFK Invitational over at Trumbull Country Club, both shooting 82. Their team ended up coming in first place. Guys that we haven't heard too much from in the junior ranks, but have certainly played well when it comes to high school golf. Bryce Van Horn, from JFK, he was on our PGA Junior League team a few years ago. Now he's playing high school golf. Another one of those guys that can break 80 when he has to, plays extremely well. Rocco Turner from Mooney continues to shoot well, shoots 40 and sub 40 rounds on a team that doesn't have too much depth to it as a freshman. So I think you've got a lot of freshmen and sophomore that I think are going to make a big splash in another year or two, but are certainly doing enough to hold their own to keep their teams competitive in matches. And then if you talk about, some of the guys that are returning, Dominic Capix from Fitch, I think has played extremely well. The Daggett brothers at Canfield, the past year or two, they're relatively young on that golf team as well. Still continue to play well and really are one of the striking forces in the Mahoning County when it comes to high school golf in the Canfield's teams. They have two. They have an A team and a B team. That are just solid from top to bottom, and I think that you're going to see a lot more resurgence out of the Canfield program here in the next year or two. Ray McCune is another one of those guys that played well at our invitational here and continues to play well in some high school matches. So I think you're going to see a lot of that going forward.
One of the programs that I keep seeing having really good scores, and maybe we'll have to keep an eye on as time goes on. Waterloo has a really good golf program going. They have, Luke Simons and Trevor Simons both putting, consistently good scores up. Have you seen Waterloo at all this year? And what kind of things do you think maybe if you haven't, a team like that maybe under the radar a little bit can do to keep improving?
Well, I think, any time that you go forward to keep improving, I think you're thinking about short game and the ability to be able to get it up and down from 50 yards and in, especially when it comes time to play districts. Not too familiar with Waterloo's program. They haven't had any matches here, to my knowledge. We host a number of matches, and I haven't seen them come through in probably the 7 years that I've been here. I'm not really certain where they play their home matches. But I know they've got some good scores based on some of the invitationals that they played in. They're in that top 4, top 5 of just about every invitational that you see posted on Baum's page for high school golf. So I think if you have two players like that, it's going to come down to depth. Can you get two individuals out of your region? And it all depends on who's in your region as well and where your sectionals and district play present themselves. So I think, short game, we always focused in high school golf, especially when it came to the fall. Number one, you've got dew on the ground. Number two, the conditions are cooler. The golf ball's not flying as far. So, the ability to humble yourself a little bit and not take the normal 150 club and adding an extra club because the ball's not going to fly as far in the cooler weather. And, the ability to get it up and down and make those pars and really grind out a bogey if you need to make a bogey to stay away from a big number, I think are the things that are essential if you want to excel come sectionals, districts, and having the opportunity to qualify for the state tournament down in Columbus. And I think if those folks do that, then I think they'll be successful. But I think there's never a higher premium to put on any part of the game other than the short game, especially when you get adverse conditions. You're talking about sleet, you're talking about snow, during the October down in Columbus. It never seems to get good weather down there. It's always windy, so you really have to control your golf ball's flight, so you miss a lot of greens. So the ability to be able to get it up and down, I think, is vital when you're trying to score and grind out a good number.
And really quick, their last result, it wasn't something they were happy with. I think their second loss of the year, they lost to Rootstown, and something we don't talk about a lot, but with this level of golf, these kids aren't going to be perfect night in and night out. They're not going to be perfect every time they go in and go. That's the nature of golf. How much have you seen development from high school golf and the kids' abilities to be mentally tough and bounce back from some events where maybe they're not getting the scores where they want to? Because I think the mental game of the kids and the mental game of high school athletes are all across the board has really improved over the last 5-10 years, and maybe golf will be the biggest microscope to see that.
I think you're right. I think the mental side is huge in the game. Golf's a little bit different than football, where your teammates can sort of help you out a little bit. You're the one that's out there striking the golf ball and having to hit the shots. Yes, you can depend on your teammates to make it out of a region or a sectional or wing an invitational as part of a team. So you can rely on them to an extent. But when push comes to shove and you're qualifying from a sectional standpoint, there's 5 players out there. They're only counting 4 scores. So it's important from an individual perspective that, number one, you always stay in it. And number two, that you stay positive and focused. And I think that, golfers certainly tend to have that a little bit more because you have to be able to score. And I think the mental game in golf is probably more important than any other game. I mean, you can get away, playing football or basketball or baseball, which is brute force and just athletic talent. But you have to be methodical when you're on the golf course. You have to know which holes you can play aggressively, know which holes you can play conservatively, where you can make a big number, and really muddy up your scorecard. So for teams like that, you're not going to have your A game day in and day out. You want to continue to get better from week 1 all the way through, the 15th or 16th match in your schedule, heading into the sectionals. Golf's probably, kind of like football this year, now that they've pretty much allowed everybody into the playoffs. You have a season that really doesn't mean anything other than winning your league conference, which I think is great, and it's a great goal to set as a team. But it really has no bearing on being seated anywhere, from a golf perspective. I mean, yeah, they'll go by records, but everybody's in that field, and they all have the same opportunity and same shot. And whoever's hot that first week makes it out of sectionals, goes into districts. So you have to continually get better each week to be competitive. And the ability to play in some of these invitationals, the stuff that wasn't really around. I think we were the first group that played in the Cardinal Classic back in '93 or '94 here at Mill Creek. Was the only 18-hole event that we played in that was prior to sectionals and district, which are 18-hole tournaments. So you're used to playing 9-hole matches after school, jumping on the bus, driving somewhere to tee off by 4:30, and then running out of daylight and coming home, hitting your homework, and then practicing the next day and vice versa. So there really wasn't a lot of time to get 18-hole reps, the stamina that's needed for 18 holes by playing these 9-hole matches. So there's a lot more invitationals now, and I think Canfield's one of those schools that really takes advantage of playing in a lot of these events. Not only do they bring one team, they bring two to it, which is a little bit unorthodox, but I think in the long run, heading into sectionals and districts, I think it's going to be a positive, and I think it's really going to help them because they're going to have 18-hole sea legs under them, so to speak, to where they're going to be playing 18 holes that they're used to playing in all of these 18-hole events that they play, as opposed to doing a limited schedule of just 9-hole events. So yes, the travel's part of it, but number 2, building the stamina to play 18 holes, I think, is important because 9 holes just certainly doesn't cut it. A lot of kids will get the sectionals and they'll be tired when they make the turn, or they'll be tired 13, 14, 15 holes into it. And I think it's how the players perform and being able to perform strong at the end of a round to close out a good round, to cap a good round, or to close out a round that you're sort of leaking oil coming down the stretch and, turning, bogeys, or pars in when you could have made a double or triple here or there that, sort of makes your scores come in high at the end, I think are vitally important. And I think the teams that play a lot of 18 holes, especially on the weekends when you have the opportunity, will certainly have a tremendous advantage, come, what I call, playoffs time, which is sectionals in the sport of golf.
You talk about too, when the adverse conditions start coming around, you have to start worrying about snow and dew and everything. Talk about it from a casual golfer's perspective and how they're able to stay sharp when the winter months do come around.
Well, I think when you get into fall golf, there's a couple things that you want to think of. Number 1, you always have to tell yourself, number 1, the ball's just not going to fly as far as it normally would in 2 aspects. Number 1, it doesn't fly in the air when it's cold as far as it does when you're dealing with 80 degrees or very dry summer type days. And number 2, you're not going to get the roll that you did in the summertime where you can have maybe 50 or 60 yards of roll off a tee shot come June, July, and August, and then September. Obviously, the conditions, the moisture, the dew and stuff that's on the ground in the mornings. We talk about high school golf, which this past segment, the conditions that they're going to play sectionals and districts in. The conditions are, number 1, they're cold, they're wet. The ball just doesn't travel. The ball flies a little bit different off the wet ground. And, the conditions that the average golfer plays in are going to be similar to that. So, knowing when to, my 150-yard club is an 8-iron historically. In the fall season, you really have to knock yourself down a couple notches to not really try to push, hitting that 8-iron because you've hit it, from 150 yards all summer. You're just not going to get the distance out of it that you normally would in the core of the golf season. So, dropping down to a 7-iron and making the same swing, you don't have to overpower, playing conservative, playing for shots to, sort of run up and check a little bit more because the ground's not going to give it that extra roll that you would normally have. I think you have to take that in consideration. And number 2, I think it's just tough to chip out of wet grass that's high around the edges of the green. So, the ball will come out a little bit muffled. So you have to, again, if it's a sand wedge at 56 degrees that you're normally chipping with, maybe you jump it down to a 52 or a 50, or maybe it's a pitching wedge because you want that extra roll because the ball is going to come out a little bit deader. So I think if golfers do that, and they tell themselves, well, I'm not going to hit my drive. If I normally hit a drive 280 yards, maybe I'm hitting it 260 because the conditions with the rollout aren't quite there. So I'm going to have an extra couple clubs in, and then you're going to have an extra club just because the conditions are cooler and the ball's not quite flying as far. I just think, the people get in the mindset when they do play fall golf, you've played all summer and you've hit certain clubs from certain areas of the golf course. Those don't really apply as you head into the back half of the season. So, being humble, playing a lot more shots that run out a little bit as opposed to flying it there where you're not going to get quite as much roll is a huge advantage to trying to score well when you head into the fall.
And before we get into our little predictions on who might be on this Ryder Cup team, which I believe starts on the 24th, let's talk about this NCAA event that you're hosting and give a little bit of preview of what's coming to Mill Creek on Sunday.
Sure. We've got 17 teams in the field this year, which is the largest field that Youngstown State has hosted here at the Roseanne Schwartz Invitational. Roseanne Schwartz was the original golf coach at Youngstown State, I want to say in 92, 93, when they brought back the golf program at Youngstown State. Since she's retired and she plays out here, it's probably one of the most remarkable and wonderful women you'll ever meet. LPGA member, play on the LPGA tour. Has some great stories of, her time, traveling as a tour professional, was an extremely good player. As a professional, got into coaching and teaching, just a great mentor for kids and girls, especially being a collegiate golf coach at Youngstown State. Won a number of titles at Youngstown State and Horizon Conference. And it's one of the things that Youngstown State is doing to sort of honor her legacy and her time spent at Youngstown State with this invitational, where we'll have about 17 teams from around the country come in and play here at Mill Creek. This is our seventh season in hosting it. We did host their preseason event a couple of years ago, which normally Youngstown Country Club hosts the preseason. We host the Roseanne Schwartz. So this will be our 8th event in total that we've been able to host here at Mill Creek. So it's nice to be able to bring all these teams to your community. They usually come in, Saturday and Sunday morning, come in, play practice rounds, and then they'll play Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week. So it's great to see all the best athletes from this region of the country that come in to play. YSU historically has been very, very sharp when it comes to playing in this event. I want to say that they've won it every year except for maybe 2 years that I've been here. So they continue to play well at home, and you certainly have a home course advantage when you get here to play, even though that the athletes that come in are superior. But anytime that you get an opportunity to play on your home course where you practice and you play a lot of practice rounds, you get familiar with it. And I think it's a huge advantage for, anything, if it's a professional tournament and you're the host pro certainly has an advantage because he knows where not to miss it and, knows where to leave it if he misses a green for an easy up and down. And I think our girls team certainly has an advantage when it comes to that. So, they've set some records here during that time. I want to say they shot 66 or 64 to set the invitational individual record. They've broken the team record here, I want to say 2 or 3 times since I've been here. So a lot of great golf has been played here over the course of a 7 or 8 year period of time. And you've got, like a lot of these teams, just like the AJGA tournament coming in June, it's great for our economy. They're staying at hotels. They're dining here every single night. We have a ton of parents, and I can't tell you how much Youngstown State gear we sell in the pro shop during the week with parents and friends and family in town watching this event. So it's a great event to be part of. We're certainly happy to be the host for it. Nate Miklas, the golf coach at Youngstown State, does a remarkable job. He really gets his players engaged. He does a heck of a job recruiting all over the world. He's got some players from Sweden, Thailand. I mean, you name it. They tend to be talented on the golf course as well as in the classroom. Academically, I think they're just about everybody on the team is on the dean's list. So I think what smart's on the golf course comes off the golf course as well, and it's a remarkable job that Nate Miklas does at Youngstown State, and we're excited to be a part of it.
And I'm assuming it's open to the public. Fans, if they want to, can just come and watch at their leisure.
It certainly is. We'll have probably 150 to 200 people on site watching the tournament, along with some media as well. But everybody's welcome to come out and attend, just like the AJGA tournament. We want people to come out and see how great the golf is here at Mill Creek and how good your local university team at Youngstown State plays.
And I tell you, looking at the Storm Tracker 21 weather report, nothing but good weather for those 3 days. We might be blessed with some really good weather for that event as well.
Well, we'll take it. Historically, this event's always been Labor Day weekend, and this year Penn State shifted their event because they had a football game, and our event got shifted for the first time in about 7 or 8 years. And what happens is, as the bigger tournaments move, the littler tournaments have to move as well. But historically, they've always got anywhere between 11 or 12 teams at the event. So being able to move that 1 week out, they've added about 5 or 6 more teams than they're used to having. So it's going to be a great weekend for golf, along with the early part of next week.
All right, no more PGA events to talk about. We have a couple of weeks to really gear up for this Ryder Cup. Today we can talk about who we think will get on the team and who Coach Stricker might decide to place. I know that announcement coming pretty soon. So let's talk a little bit about some players you expect to be on this team and what putting together a good team for the Ryder Cup really, what goes into those decisions.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think this year probably is going to be the toughest out of most because you had, such a up and down year by a lot of the players. You've got some players that have qualified to get in, and you've got some players on the list that have been up and down kind of all year. So we'll start with the knowns. You've got Colin Morikawa, you've got Dustin Johnson, Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, not a good buddy of Bryson DeChambeau, but Brooks Koepka's in there, Justin Thomas, and Patrick Cantlay being the recent one that came in, just winning the FedEx Cup. So, Patrick Cantlay is certainly hot coming in. Justin Thomas is one of those players that's sort of been up and down all year, as is Brooks Koepka, coming off that knee injury, hasn't done much since Phil Mickelson beat him up at the PGA. Bryson's been hot and cold all year. And Dustin Johnson has probably he's had a decent year. He had a great start early on, hasn't done much in the back half of the year. Has shot some good rounds here or there, but just is not the Dustin Johnson that we saw that was total domination last year. And Colin Morikawa, probably like Cantlay, has played extremely hot this back end of the year from the British Open and through the FedEx Cup playoffs. Didn't get himself in a great position, but did enough to be in the conversation. So those are our known commodities. As we came on air today, Steve Stricker did make his picks. So I do have the new picks, so we can kind of read those off live. But my picks were going to be Jordan Spieth, Xander Schauffele, Daniel Berger, Tony Finau, and Patrick Reed. Those would have been my picks going in. He went with Jordan Spieth, Xander Schauffele, Daniel Berger, Tony Finau, and Harrison English. So those are who we have going in. So of those picks, a couple names that come to mind that weren't picked. Kevin Na's been playing great, wasn't picked. Patrick Reed has been, pretty much steady in a lot of the season, wasn't picked. And Webb Simpson, a guy that you guys chose and I chose a number of times throughout the course of the year, has won a couple times, and just really hasn't gotten it done to where he normally would be. But those are types of guys that I thought would have had a pretty good shot. But Steve Stricker, going back to how tough it was for him to be able to select this team, you got basically heads clashing with Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka. They were the 3 and 4 seed or 4 and 5 seed going in for the automatic berths. Those two guys don't get along at all. You got Patrick Reed, who was on that candidate list, who doesn't get along and is publicly thrown, his team from 2 years ago when they played the Ryder Cup over in Paris under the bus, saying they all stink and they're, I was the only guy that won any points, which is not the right thing to do. But adding him to the mix, although he's a viable candidate, probably would have been damaging in the locker room, in the team room for the guys. So, wasn't easy to pick this one compared to others based on how the guys were playing heading in. And I think Steve Stricker made, the correct picks going in, but, leaving Webb Simpson and adding Scotty Scheffler, to the team, who really has played good, but he's not great. I think Daniel Berger's a good addition because he's a laid-back guy in the locker room, which I think this team's going to need a lot of laid-back guys in the locker room because you're going to have a lot of clashing going with even, Justin Thomas clashes a little bit with some of the guys. I think you're going to see him paired with a lot of his high school buddy and AJGA compadre Jordan Spieth. I think you're going to see a lot of them in the alternate shot together because they know each other's game and they've been playing golf together since their junior days with the AJGA. Patrick Cantlay, certainly a guy that's been playing hot, but who do you pair him with? Because he really doesn't, he's not in the same circles with these guys. So I think from a pairing perspective, I think it's certainly going to be tough for the captain, Steve Stricker. Phil Mickelson's assistant captain, and so is Freddie Couples. Probably a great guy to have in the team room is Freddie Couples. He's been the captain of a number of President's Cups teams that were victorious. So I think he knows how to play the egos of the guys on this team better than anybody because he seems to get the best out of them. And having him as an assistant captain, I think is going to be a huge advantage for Steve Stricker. But the PGA as a whole, and I'm a member of the PGA, so I don't want you to feel like this is a knock towards the PGA, has the opportunity to select, number one, the home venue. Number two, the home captain gets the opportunity to set up where the flags are placed, how the roughs are cut, what heights they're cut at, how wide or how narrow the fairways are. I think picking the venue, Whistling Straits is a great venue. It's hosted 3 PGA championships. It's hosted a senior U.S. Open. Now it's hosting a Ryder Cup. So it's hosted 4 big profile type events. And historically, one American has won when they've hosted these major events there. And it was the senior U.S. Open champion, Bart Bryant. So I really even take that out. It's not historically where the Americans play well at. So to think that they picked a venue that is going to be tough for this team is a head scratcher to me. Number 2, Whistling Straits, if you recall watching it at a PGA Championship, it's a seaside links course designed by Pete Dye and his wife Alice. So a links course certainly favors guys that play on the European Tour, even though the European team hasn't been picked yet, and they still have a couple more weeks to, solidify their team with their playoff systems on the European Tour. They don't have any automatic bids, kind of like we have. They select their team, after their tour championship. So they've got that over the next couple of weeks. So we really don't know who, the participants are on that team yet because it hasn't been finalized. But I see a seaside course advantage for the Europeans. We got blown out in Paris, 17.5 to 10.5. To come back home and have to play a course that really favors European golf, you're going to be dealing with wind. You're going to be dealing with rain. You're going to be dealing with rolling terrain and very undulating greens. Pete Dye's known for, very undulating greens that are tough to putt on. All variables that favor the European team, and you're giving them that advantage on the American soil. So I think if you want to play a Ryder Cup and you want to be successful and you want to win the Ryder Cup, they have to pick venues that favor the American golfers. The Europeans certainly do it when they host overseas. I think it's something that, we just think, oh, here's a venue that's great for tour events and, high profile events. I think you need to have events where the Americans historically play well year in and year out. And that could be any tour facility that the Americans have won 10 out of 11 tour events of the last 11 or 12 tour events. I think that's how they have to look at it because, putting them on a seaside golf links with a lot of pot bunkers and high grass dunes and sand dunes and a lot of trouble, coming with the ocean current and the ocean, the winds and the terrain that you get playing a British Open. I mean, this will be very British Open like when you see them play here in a couple weeks. And I think it's a disadvantage to our team. Not saying that our team can't win. I'm just saying that right out of the gate, we're at a huge disadvantage. And I think, having a team that's not as great as it normally would be on paper. Yes, our team has got some big names on it, but they're not playing at the highest level that I think that they could be. So hopefully Steve Stricker and Phil Mickelson and Freddie Couples really get those guys into gear over the next course of the couple weeks, practicing and playing and see who's going to be good pairings that work together, that don't clash, as a team. Keeping the team room loose and relaxed, I think, is going to be vital. But the conditions that they're going to play in, certainly they have no picnic of an advantage having it hosted on American soil by playing what I call a European type golf course.
Who from the American team do you think kind of is favored or is a dark horse in this matchup and is kind of geared towards playing this European style, of course?
I think probably out of anybody that's on the lineup, I go to a couple people, and they were ironically the captain's picks. Nobody on the listing right out of the gate. Although you could say Morikawa, would probably be the strongest of the six that have qualified on their own. I think of Jordan Spieth. His success at British Opens will give him a big advantage, but you're playing the first 2 days with a partner, so your partner has to be playing well too. So I mean, you could be playing great, but that only is going to count for you getting a point in an individual singles match on Sunday. So, you got to make it to Sunday in pretty decent shape to give yourself an opportunity. And the other variable that I'll throw in there too is you have the opportunity as the American captain when it's at your home venue to pick when you play the formats that you do. So you have an alternate shot format, and then you have a best ball format. Historically, we never do good in alternate shot. We do great in the best ball. We're starting out the first 2 days with alternate shot, and then you're playing the best ball in the afternoon. So you could dig yourself a big hole by not doing it the opposite, having the format that's laid out right now. And as far as I know, I think that they're locked into that. That's what they selected, so that's where they're going. So you're going to play alternate shot out of the gate, which is a disadvantage. So if you have any players that are struggling, it's going to be magnified. And then you're going to be playing catch up in the best ball in the afternoon. You're going to be doing that the first 2 days before you hit your singles matches on Sunday. So, but going back to the players, I think Spieth, number one, but you got to give him a player that plays well and has some distance off the tee. I think Xander Schauffele plays a lot overseas, and I think he's played well overseas. I think he's another one of those guys. And then Daniel Berger's one of those guys that, in my estimation, can play well. He's great in wind-like conditions where you're dealing with some adversity or 20 or 30 mile an hour winds. I think those are three guys that are probably the best adapt to play some of the conditions that you may see. Now it may be 80 degrees and sunny and it's a moot point, but when you're on the edge of the ocean, or no, I want to say on the ocean, but on the edge of the lake, you're always getting currents, you're always getting drafts that are coming off any lake that you've ever gone skiing or boating and whatnot on. And this is no different than what you're going to see, when you get up there. But I think those three have significant advantages. And then you got to look at, who are the rookies? Scotty Scheffler has not played in any of these. He's a rookie. You're throwing him into the lion's den right out of the gate. Xander Schauffele, for winning the gold medal and playing as well as he has, he's a rookie, when it comes to Ryder Cup. Finau is another rookie when it comes to Ryder Cup. Patrick Cantlay, who qualified, another rookie. Harris English, another rookie. And I want to say Daniel Berger may be a rookie as well. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But you have, 4 or 5 rookies on this team. Talk about experience not being there. I certainly think that could be a detriment as well. I'm not as high hopes. I really see the match as being probably a 15-13 win for the Europeans. All they need is 14 to retain the cup, because you don't have to get 14.5 if you tie the team that won it the year before wins. So 14 points are needed for the European team to win, and 14.5 or more is going to be awarded for a win for the United States. So it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be an uphill battle, and I just don't see how Steve Stricker gets this group of rookies and guys that have qualified that haven't played well in the last couple months on the PGA Tour to really overcome that and overcome the golf course that they selected with the conditions that they're going to play this week that really favor the Europeans. Now, I'm hoping I'm the biggest USA supporter out of anybody, but realistically on paper, they're not going to be as good. And that's without, Europe on paper yet.
And it'll be an interesting couple weeks as we get ready for the Ryder Cup. It starts on the 24th, and we'll continue to keep an eye on developments with that. But for now, it's time for your, the time to shine, Brian. It's the tip of the week. Give us what you have for us this week as far as a tip for the golf course.
Well, tip for the golf course is going to deal with fall-like conditions. And I think, this week and next week, I think we'll sort of gravitate towards this. And it comes with playing conditions that are soft. When the ground is soft, when the ground is damp, If you're playing early morning, what to do, what to have in the bag to make sure that you're prepared for the elements. Number one, golf ball selection this time of year is key. Tour golf balls in the summertime, they're great when you can compress them and it's hot and the golf ball's coming off the club face, very good. When it comes down to cooler conditions, you're not going to get that spring off the golf ball. So maybe going down to the next tier of golf ball, something that, maybe a 3-piece ball if you're playing a 4-piece ball, maybe a 2-piece ball if you're playing a 3-piece ball, because those balls are going to be easier to compress off the club face when it is cold. You're going to gain a little bit of distance so you don't have to lose that much going in. Selecting the right club, like we talked about earlier, adding that extra club, I think is vitally important. Having grips that are dry. When it is damp, the club will have the tendency to turn in your hand. So that means that you need to have a nice dry towel in the cart or hanging off your golf bag to make sure that number one, your grooves are dry and clean when you're hitting those shots, because the golf club tends to grab a lot of debris and a lot of dirt between the club face and the golf ball. And that'll eliminate some of that backspin that you're able to put on it from an iron shot perspective. And I just think having, shoes, gear that are waterproof, having your feet not be wet and not be cold when it's 50 or 60 degrees out and it's wet, certainly makes for an uncomfortable lower body when you're trying to hit shots and you're trying to stay warm when it is a little bit cooler. Adding that vest and adding that golf shirt that has the heating and cooling elements to it. When it's cold out, it's going to stay warm. When it's hot out, it's going to stay cool. Are things that are technologies that are in, golf shirts and sweatshirts and rainwear and outerwear now that, we didn't have the luxury of, back when I was playing junior golf. You had a Gore-Tex rain suit that really couldn't breathe. So it was either super, super hot, or you had to go without a rain top. So I think having the right equipment from, what you're wearing, I think is vitally important. But the ability to keep the clubs dry and to play that extra club, I think is going to be a huge advantage as we go into the fall season, where the temperatures just don't quite get as high as they normally should. I think are vitally important, and choosing the right golf ball and adjusting your golf ball and your equipment, I think are big.
Brian, that is a big tip, especially like you said, as the weather starts to turn and we start to see colder mornings and eventually we're going to start to see shorter days as fall gets heavier and winter gets closer. Thank you so much for joining us this week. It's great to talk to you like it is every week. Great barrage of local golf expertise along with what we're going to see on the national stage. Always fun to talk to you. Thank you again for taking the time this week.
You got it, guys. Thanks. And the ability to adjust, adapt, and evolve heading into fall golf, I think, is probably the most vital 3 words that you can have to be successful. If you can't adapt, you can't survive, right, Brian? You're right. All right. We'll see you next week, bud. Have a great week, guys. Thank you. Brian Tolnar, the golf guru from Mill Creek Golf Club, joining us like he does every week. We definitely thank him for his time. Take a very quick break, and we'll be back with more on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
We are there in your community. Small business owners, mechanics, police officers, homemakers. And we are there serving our nation in the Air Force Reserve. When medical emergencies arise, in cybersecurity, when natural disasters happen, we are there in space. We are Reserve Citizen Airmen, and we are there with over 180 different jobs to serve your country. Air Force Reserve.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, shop with confidence knowing we're ready to go the extra mile for you. With the largest selection of used vehicles in the Valley, backed by the Greenwood Advantage Warranty. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
My guy keeps it 100% of the time. He wants all 100, won't settle for 99. And it's more than stats, because there's people in those numbers. And I was one of the lost sheep. I'm so glad he cares for all 100. I'm 100% safe, 100% free, 100% love. I can be 100% me. He gave all 100 when they put him up on that tree. That's 100% passion for 100% free. So if I play in front of 100, or if I play in front of 2, there's an audience of 1 getting 100% of what I can do.
WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. With our combined 70 years experience, WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. Call 330-965-0370 to learn more about our individual and corporate financial planning services, or visit wrswealth.com. Good luck, athletes.
Welcome back to the Wednesday edition of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown as we approach the 2 o'clock hour here with Ty Bartell. And we have a couple of results just to get through that we missed right before Brian Tolnar came on. Fitch gets their 3rd win in a row after dropping their first match of the year last weekend to Marlington. They beat Boardman in 3 sets, 25-20, 25-18, 26-24. So a battle with Boardman, and something that we always expect from the Spartans, but Fitch able to come away with the straight sets victory.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter how talented one team is over the other in any given season. Anytime these two teams have to lock horns, you know it's going to be a close and competitive matchup, and no different in this one. Yeah, it was a 3-0 sweep by the Falcons, but nonetheless, the Spartans were competitive throughout each and every one of those sets. So Spartans, again, even though they're down this year and they lost a lot from last year, still always when they see the Falcons come into town, or they see they have Austintown on the docket, things are a little bit heightened when they go into that game.
Jocelyn Jordan continues her impressive season, 22 kills on the night for her to lead the team. That's a big number for Double J.
I mean, Double J has been an absolute killer this whole season, and I mean has been on tops of what makes that Falcons offense so dynamic. We saw how big she was in the Canfield game, and just continuing on that momentum in some AAC play and carrying it on to the Boardman Spartans now. Is right now Fitch with Warren Harding left on the docket has been undefeated in conference play this season, with only losing 1 set out of 9 attempts, too, with a 3-0 sweep of Howland, a 3-0 sweep of Boardman, and a 3-1 win over Canfield. Fitch really dominating their division.
And Jocelyn also had 3 aces on the night. Aaron Burke steps back into the lineup, 19 assists for her on the night, and 2 aces. Ella Solly led the defense, 9 digs for her in the back row. Julia Jordan was all around the stat sheet, 6 kills. 7 digs, 3 aces for her. So Fitch, another impressive night. They sweep Boardman, and they will finish the AAC slate round 1. Thursday, they travel to Warren Harding. Boardman will also travel on Thursday. They go to Canfield.
And that'll be an interesting match, too, with Boardman playing Fitch pretty tight. And we know Canfield also coming off of that loss to the Falcons. Canfield looking to really get things on track this season. We know the gauntlet of a schedule that they're playing. Now they're got to play a little bit of conference play. But this is going to be an interesting matchup between the Spartans and the Cardinals. And it's one that, if Canfield's not careful, Spartans can sneak one on them, as they've already proven that they can be competitive with some of the best.
And the last volleyball score to report, East Palestine gets the 4-set win over Valley Christian as they drop set 1, but then won 3 in a row. The scores there, 21-25, 25-18, 25-19, and 25-22. So Valley Christian wins the first, loses the next 3. For East Palestine, Gia Bristelli and Sophia Foster kept the Bulldogs grounded while they were trying to come back. Bristelli had several moments throughout the match from service position when she showed poise and grace on her way to an 18-point, 10-dig performance. Foster was a force in the line, 15 kills for her. You look at Mackenzie Parker. She had 19 assists on the night. And the Baird brothers, Big Dog of the Valley nominee, Maya Lee, filled up the stat sheet as well. She finished with 14 kills, 13 digs, double-double for her. East Palestine moves on to take on the Academy of Urban Scholars tonight at home. So no breath for East Palestine. They get another game tonight on the docket. Another team with 3 games in 3 days in this week of volleyball.
And Palestine's one of those good EOAC teams too, and they just want to get themselves ready come tournament time and preparing themselves as well as they can, getting as much competition as they can in as many days as they can. Not shying away, I believe they scheduled the full 22, and they're going full head of steam on it.
And that quick reminder that Maya Lee is up for Big Dog of the Valley, so East Palestine fans, be sure to go and vote for her if you want her to win. Voting ends Saturday at midnight, and it is unlimited until then. So, Ty, we know you have to leave at 2 o'clock. You got some student duties at Kent State. But before you leave, we have an announcement, and we want to promote a little bit of a change coming next week on Monday. Running Point will be moving to a new time slot. We're going to be moving to 2 hours instead of 3. 12 to 2, we will be with you starting Monday, and we are doing this to make room for some new voices on the YSN network. As now from 2 to 3, the casual sports talk podcast will be airing from 2 to 3. And Alec Caberna and Matt Morrison, 2 guys that have really taken fire on YSN and taken this opportunity and run with it, will be running that show from 2 to 3. Very excited for new voices on YSN, and we are more than happy to make room for them in our time slot. So starting Monday 12 to 2, then casual sports from 2 to 3, and then power hour from 3 to 4.
If any of you know Alec Cabrera, you might know him from the JFK baseball state title run, as he was calling both the regional finals all the way through through the regional semis all the way up through the state title. A very good play-by-play announcer. I got the honor to do a little bit of color commentary and work with Alec a little bit as well. So, I mean, he has very great views, does very great research too, and has very good opinions on sports. So when he said he wanted to have a show of his own or a podcast of his own and have some airtime on YSN, it would be stupid of us for us not to allow him to have that. So we say, hey, we have 3 hours that we take up a day. Why don't we just cut that back to 2 and let someone else take that last hour for us and give an opportunity to someone else and see what else we can have. And variety is basically what we're looking for here on the network. And yeah, it's sad we're going to not be able to be with you for 3 hours of the day, but we are excited to show up and showcase some new voices on the network as well.
You know what? Brian Tolnar gave us a perfect segue into this promotion because he said it: adapt and grow or don't survive. And here we are with 2 very talented broadcasters that want the opportunity, and we're going to adapt, we're going to grow, and we're going to give them the mic, and it's going to be a fun time from 2 to 3, Mondays through Fridays, starting next Monday on September 13th.
And don't think that this is a loss of content between what you're getting here on Running Point. You're just going to get 3 hours of content crammed into 2 hours of showtime. Now, don't expect to still get the same reports, same scores, same coverage of all local area teams, both on the boys and girls side from here at Running Point. None of that is to change. We just have to cram a lot more content in a lot shorter time span. But hey, that's all right for you because we're just going to have to get a lot more efficient on this.
And you know what? To kind of preview what this casual sports podcast is going to be like, think of kind of like if you want to kick back and have a lunch break with some guys that are just going to be very laid back, very casual. It's right in the name, casual sports talk. They're gonna shake things up. I'm telling you, from 2 to 3 on the network. It's going to be a lot different than the format of Running Point, and it's going to be different than the format of Power Hour. Kind of like a mixture of both a little bit. And I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it as well, and I mean excited to see what these 2 guys can bring to the table now.
Bring it to the table, bring it to the Thanksgiving table, and we'll eat some nice sports talk meat. You know, I did a game with Alec as well during the baseball softball season. He's got one of those voices that's just you can't teach it, you can't. It's very like 40s. It's a 40s announcer-esque type voice. Like if you think of like
a baseball announcer on the radio from the 40s. He has like that type of voice. It's a very unique voice. It's intriguing though to listen to. I'll give it to him when you listen to him. And I mean, he has an energy and he has kind of an aura about him that makes it attractive to listen to. And yeah, exciting to see him kind of out of the realm of the sports press box world and out of the play-by-play world, and seeing more of Alec as Alec and not as Alec, the play-by-play guy, and seeing what his opinions and views are too. Because I mean, we know there's differences in what we see too, and we don't show as much as broadcasters as we do on these shows. So yeah, excited to see a little bit more about Alec and his buddy as well.
Yeah, we'll continue to promote that. Alec and Matt taking that show by the horns. We'll continue to promote that as the week goes on. But once again, we announced it on social just a little bit ago. So now we can officially announce that starting Monday, 12 to 2 with Running Point, 2 to 3 with Casual Sports Podcast, and then 3 to 4 with the Power Hour. Slowly but surely, YSN taking over the world. We're adding a new show to the family of shows on the network.
Yeah, and it'll be great too, and we're excited. We're looking forward to as we look to fill this network up with a bunch of other shows, and we're always looking for new ideas and new things for content. So excited to have another show on the docket.
What really happened is Ty came into the office one day and said, "Anthony, what are we doing today?" And I said, "What do we do every day, Ty? We're taking over the world. Let's just like Pinky in the Brain."
Yep, and it'll be fun too. And we talk about it. We got you covered from 12 till 3, and then of course on Thursdays we still have our Thursday previews too here on Running Point, as well as you have prime time too, as well as on Friday we have the audible call. I mean, we're covering you, and it's just part of our stretch to just keep on taking more hours of your week and having more content for you to watch locally throughout the week.
Cue evil laugh as we take over the world. No one's stopping us. We will take another quick break because Ty, you got some work to do, buddy. You got some schoolwork to do. I know you'd rather be here, but you got to take care of some business.
Yep, and I mean, just gonna have to be what it's like for right now. But I mean, with it going on, you still have me full show then, starting next week as well too. So I mean, well, we'll be able to work it out. But just today, a little bit of time constraints. But hey, we got Scotty coming on, so yes, you're not losing too much.
Scotty Tuhati is going to be joining me after this break, and he'll fill up the 2 o'clock hour as we let Ty go off and do his thing with his schoolwork. So. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with Running Point on ysnlive.com.
News doesn't stop after the sun goes down. Sometimes you just have to hustle to get it. At 21 News, no matter how far it is, no matter what it takes to get there, we're working to bring you the best stories and the freshest content at 11 p.m. with the context and clarity that makes it worth staying up for, no matter what time it is. 21 News at 11 with me, Aaron Simonek, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 11, news that's worth your time.
Coca's Pizza, proud to announce our pizza buffet's back every Wednesday at our Boardman and Campfield locations. Adults only $7.99 and kids only $4.99, and $2 beer starting at 8 o'clock. That's Coca's Pizza. We serve it hot.
Every customer has a story, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Hi, everyone. This is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
It's a new year at Acura of Boardman and Boardman Mitsubishi with huge savings on over 350 fully inspected vehicles. We have cars, trucks, SUVs, minivans, and work vehicles. We don't have it, our team will find it. We aim for 100% credit approval with payments as low as $99 per month. And as always, we'll pay top dollar for your trade. For a great vehicle and a great experience, come see why everyone is stopping by at Acura Boardman and Boardman Mitsubishi.
60 years ago, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods began with 3 siblings, a hand-set sawmill, and a few local orders. And while business has certainly changed over the years, what has not are our principles of hard work, craftsmanship, and commitment to quality. At Baird Brothers, we're proud to put our name on the products we create, from moldings and doors to flooring and lumber. Thank you for 60 great years. We look forward to 60 more. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
You're looking to your future, preparing for your goals, and they're closer than you think. Because here, success is part of the plan. It's a place where academic and social opportunities are meant to prepare you for life, not just the next 4 years. You'll be equipped to face new challenges and turn hard work into a career. You're ready for your success to take root. And here's where it starts. We are Youngstown State University, and proud.
Right now is a great time to get more for your trade-in at Tri-State Ford. Choose a new Ford or from our great selection of pre-owned vehicles. Plus, you'll get the Tri-State Ford Advantage, including a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty and more. At Tri-State Ford, we'll pay you top dollar for your trade, but you don't have to purchase one of ours to sell us yours. Customer-focused, community-driven. Tri-State Ford, East Liverpool, or visit tristateford.net.
And welcome back to Wednesday edition of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. I have swapped special guest co-host for the 2 o'clock hour as we bring on Scotty. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's like you're going from Patrick Mahomes to Ryan Fitzpatrick.
And now, which one are you trying to be right now? Like, are you selling yourself short, or are you calling Ty Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I'm always I'm self deprecation.
Oh my God.
That's like my motto. Is like the way I always think. If I make fun of myself, nobody else could make fun of me. So I was going more towards the Ryan Fitz. But he's still in the NFL, right? He's
going to be the Washington Redskins starter, I believe.
He's still productive.
Well, not Redskins anymore. Sorry, it's a Washington football team.
Yeah. But anyway, Anthony, I know you always say that you really enjoy having me on, and that the 2 o'clock segment is my segment, and I wanted to start off locally here.
Let's go. We love local.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about not the chances, because I always think there's a chance, especially in one game, and when it's not a format where it's a best of 3 or best of 5, 7, whatever, like a series format. But how good a chance do you give my alma mater, Lowville, this week, staying undefeated against those battle-tested 2-time state runner-up Springfield Tigers?
I got to tell you, Scotty, if you would have asked me that 2 weeks ago, I would have said like 50-50. Like, it's a straight-up toss-up in my mind. Springfield looked like they really put some stuff together against Geneva last week. So now, maybe I'm leaning a little bit more. Spoiler alert, because we're making our picks on Friday. I'm leaning a little bit more towards Springfield in this matchup, But with Vinny Malone, oh my gosh, can that kid play? You can never count that kid out or Louisville out. They're going to test Springfield's secondary. They're going to be different than any team Springfield's played so far because you look at Brookfield, they love the run. You look at South Range, they're more balanced. And Geneva was more of an offense that they like to run as well. Now all of a sudden, Springfield's defense has to make an adjustment and try to prepare for an offense that guns it like it's no tomorrow with Vinny Malone. The Louisville has a shot. I wouldn't be surprised if I was picking the game, which I will on Friday, probably leaning a little bit towards Springfield just because of how impressive the Tigers really looked in week 3. It looked like they started to gel a little bit more. You look at the film of that game, it looked like everybody was executing their job a little bit better. I feel like the Tigers putting some stuff together. They struggled in the first 2 weeks, barely beating Brookfield, losing to South Range. But now I feel like they're starting to find a groove. Doesn't mean Louisville can't win. With that offense, you can score from anywhere on the field and really turn momentum. I think Louisville has a good chance. But, like I said, maybe leaning a little bit towards Springfield's side of the fence.
Do you think it's more realistic that we see just an all-out shootout in this game, or do you think it's we're more likely to see the defenses kind of take over and there be a bit of a defensive struggle?
Since both teams really love to use explosive plays in their offense. I mean, Bo Brungard in week 3 had 2 75-plus yard touchdown runs. They score quick. I would say this has more of a chance to be a high-scoring shootout than it does a 20s, high teens kind of game. Even though Springfield is probably going to look to have some ball control, slow the ball down. They do have a good run game. They're going to try to keep the ball out of Vinny Malone's hands, I bet. But at the end of the day, with Springfield's offense, they're still explosive. They're going to make explosive plays. So they're going to score a couple of times, probably very quickly. And if Louisville can answer, then they can really turn this into a shootout. I think Louisville needs it to be a shootout. I don't think they want to get into a physical, game control kind of game. I think if they get into a game where it's in the 30s and the offenses are going toe for toe, that's to Louisville's advantage.
And then my last question for you on this game, and it's a two-parter. If
always with those two-part questions.
Yeah, if you were a player or a coach, just from a skill set perspective, would you rather have Vinny Malone as your QB or Bo Brungard? And then the second part of that question, we've talked a lot about the high-powered offenses and the 2 great QBs and what it's going to take to slow them down in this game. But the second part of that question, what do you think the X factor is for both teams in this game other than the QBs?
Okay, so that's the first one's a tough question. When you ask who would you rather have, that's like saying who do you want more, Patrick Mahomes or like Aaron Rodgers? It's like, well, dang.
Almost like you're splitting hairs.
I think one, you'd have to specify who I am on the team. Like if I'm a wide receiver, I want the guy that's gonna chuck the ball 50 times a game and give me the opportunity to catch it and go make plays. If I'm an offensive lineman, I kind of want the Bo Brungard guy that can make moves with his legs and make me look good because we're getting a lot of rush yards as a team. And then as a coach, you can't go wrong. They're both extremely coachable. They're both extremely good leaders. They're both extensions of the coaches on the field. And both coaches can't speak highly enough for both those quarterbacks. So if I'm a coach, it's kind of like going into the toy chest after a dentist appointment. You can't really go wrong with what you get. Now the other part of that question, very interesting when you look at the X factor for both the teams. If you take out the quarterbacks, and obviously Brungard and Malone are both going to be big keys of the game. I think it's going to be, honestly, the run game, the run game of both these teams, especially Springfield's ability to run the ball and control the clock. I think is going to be really big.
Interesting, and I'm very excited to see how this plays out. Logo's had they've had some solid teams in the past, but this team, in my eyes, from what I've seen so
Hold on,
far,
Scotty, we got a phone call.
We do have a phone call.
This is Running Point on YSN Live. You are live. Who do we have on the phone line?
Scotty and Tony, this is Radar on the line from Lowville.
All right, what a good time, because we're talking Lowville football right now.
Yeah.
Oh, and Scotty, I gotta tell you, Scotty and Tony, I gotta tell you, I'm gonna go with my upset special of the week, and I'm leaning toward the Springfield Lowville game. And yes, I'm gonna say Lowville 34, courtesy of Vinny Malone. Springfield and Bro Brungard 28.
Ooh.
And the Lowville's gonna pull it off, and Scotty, I know that will make your older I'm very proud, but also my older brother and my mom too.
Yeah, we'll see if they can do it. I do think they have more than a puncher's chance. Anthony said if you would ask them a couple weeks ago, it would be 50-50. Now maybe not so much, but I do think it's a little more than 50-50, maybe 60-40 or closer to the 60-40 range, maybe 65-35, somewhere in that range. But thank you for the call, Radar, and it's always good to hear your voice. And that's an interesting pick, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Radar, who are some other teams that might be on upset alert? You know, we love your upset picks.
Well, as South Range, they could be an upset. They could be on the wrong end of an upset pick. This one, they have to go against Struthers, which happens to be Friday night, and I will be there, obviously, helping out with the statisticians' work, and because remember the last time South Range and Struthers played on Struthers' home field 2 years ago, Struthers won the game, and it helped them to a playoff berth 2 short years ago.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
that was a vital win in their season. That was a key win to getting into the postseason. So again, very astute, Radar.
Yeah, but also keep in mind, Struthers is coming off an upset, coming off a big-time whoop down, Tony, as you call it against Streetsboro 2 weeks last Friday night. And I can honestly say, really, Struthers, South Range, they're coming on a high, really, with Dylan Dominguez. And then it doesn't get any easier for Struthers. They have to play against the human highlight reel and TC Cafe in Hubbard.
Do you think, speaking of Hubbard, I mean, that's a very interesting game, Hubbard versus Poland. And the last 2 years, Poland has really shut down that offense. Can the Bulldogs do it again? Or do you think TC Caffey is just on too much of a roll right now?
I hate to say it, Tony and Scotty, but Hubbard has TC Caffey, and they'll pull it off against Poland. But and so the final score is really going to be close. But I'm going to say Hubbard 31, Poland 24.
It's an interesting score as well. I mean, Hubbard already got the Mooney monkey off their back. Why not get the Poland monkey off their back too?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And then finally, the big one, obviously, that is a game of the week. I was told yesterday, Scotty, that Ursuline Fitch game, both Ursuline coming off a heartbreaking loss themselves, week number 3. Fitch, remember they just beat Kenton McKinley just a week or so ago. So I got to give a nod. Really, my last and final upset pick Ursuline upsetting Fitch on Fitch's home field. That certainly will stick it right at heart at Mike Jim. I know that.
You have to wonder if that's really an upset. Because you look at it, like Ursuline came into this. I know they lost last week, but they came into the season ranked number 1 in Division 4, and obviously Fitch is a higher division. But it's interesting to see if there were spreads in high school football, which there aren't, and we do not condone betting on high school athletics at all. But it would be interesting to see who would be picked as a favorite going into this game for Fitch versus Ursuline. I think this is one of the ones where it's 50-50. I think either way it goes, I wouldn't call it an upset.
Scotty?
What do you think, Scotty?
I wouldn't really call it an upset either. I think, you look at both programs, and on any given night, I think the way they're built and what they've done over the previous years, they could come out and make some big time plays to break a game open. Both teams have the personnel. I think it's kind of like, not to get too far off topic, but in the NFL this upcoming week with the Browns and Chiefs, most people give the Chiefs the edge because of Patrick Mahomes, but both teams have a lot of firepower. And on the high school level, I think it's the same way with Ursuline and with Fitch. I really don't. I have to agree with you, Anthony. I really don't see it as an upset either way in this game because of the personnel. Maybe the coaching and the schemes can be a little bit of an X factor, but as we talked about here at YSN, players win games, not coaches. So.
It's funny that's true, but we've seen coaching can lose games sometimes, especially in the higher levels.
That's true. And coaches, they do probably get too much criticism when their team loses, and not enough credit when they win. So it's hard to be a coach.
It's hard to be a coach. We don't envy that job. Radar, thank you so much for calling. We love hearing from you, buddy.
Thank you very much, you two.
Look at your buddy calling and giving a Lowville score. Well, on point.
Yeah, right on point. As we were talking about it. Another game I wanted to ask you about, Anthony, is Garfield now the G-men going up against JFK. I wanted to ask you about that one. I know you're saving your picks until Friday, but what are some of your early thoughts and your keys to that one? Because I think that one could be a real dandy and maybe the best of them all.
Yeah, JFK, Garfield looked very impressive beating JFK last week, both with their defense shutting down the Eagles' offense and with Anthony Demma in that running game. He ran for over 130 yards, 3 touchdowns for Demma. Garfield's an old school football team, physical, run the ball, stop you on defense. And now they're going up against a LeBray team that has been just a high-flying offense with Aiden Stevens and Trayvon Drake and a bunch of other superstar weapons on that offense. Football teaches you that edges in these kind of games tend to go to the physical, defensive-minded teams. And that's why I right now, once again, don't want to spoil my picks, but maybe leaning a little bit towards Garfield. They've been a powerhouse in Division 5 for a couple of years. They're going to be the best defense that LeBray plays all year, probably. And I think that they're going to control the clock with the run game and Anthony Dema. LeBray's ability to stop the run is going to come up big in this game.
In my apologies, I wanted to make a correction. I said JFK, and the G-men are coming off a win against JFK last week, a 2-touchdown winner, and now they play the LeBray Vikings. But I do think this game could be the best of them all. But I agree with you. I give Garfield the slightest of edges, at least right now. But
you add the fact that it's in Garrettsville, and now it's a league game because Garrettsville Garfield is in the MVAC now. Team that LeBray, unfamiliar with, but it's an important game because it's in the league. But on the flip side, Garfield's unfamiliar with LeBray too, so that kind of evens itself out. But Garfield's a tough place to go play, and they're a tough team physically to deal with. So it'll be interesting to see how LeBray kind of game plans their offensive scheme for that, and what their defense can do to stop the running attack of Anthony Dema and the G-men.
One final question regarding that game. I think it was LeBray when you talked about they're more of a old school football style, football approach, and I just wanted to know from you, as far as that game goes, do you see it, because both teams with their physicality, do you see it being more of a low scoring affair in that one?
I think both teams want different things out of the tempo of the game. I mean, LeBray wants to score quickly and use their weapons and be a high-flying offense like they've been all season. Garfield wants to definitely score. I mean, they put up 28 against JFK, but they want to just methodically have drives that just go 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, and then Dema breaks one for maybe 20 yards. I mean, they love to really wear down teams. And this LeBray team last season could not stop the run. But this year they looked a lot better at stopping the run. Maybe their biggest test of the year when you talk about the Garfield run game and what they're bringing into this game. LeBray's defensive line looks a lot better. They're penetrating more. They're stopping the run a lot better. But now it's go time. Like it's test time for this LeBray run defense, because if they let Garfield control the clock and slow this game down, then they might be in trouble. LeBray wants this to be a fast tempo game, high scoring affair, and they want to bet that Garfield can't keep up with them and score 49, 50 points.
And this one, again, man, I think it's like you can almost flip a coin with this one, but I do give Garfield with the home field advantage. I give them a slight edge. Both team names are, I think, pretty cool, but I just love saying G-men. So I'll go with Garfield.
And as we learned on the YSN Primetime last week, courtesy of Billy McCartney, of course, Garfield G-men, not short for the Giants as we see in the NFL. G-men is actually Garfield's nickname, and it's based off of the nickname that the FBI has back when Hoover ran the FBI, and he called them the G-men, the G Squad, things like that. So federal agents are the mascot of Garfield, and that's little lesson on nicknames in the area.
Yeah, he was an interesting character. If you've ever seen the movie J. Edgar with
Yes.
Leonardo DiCaprio,
He was interesting. I mean, I think you had to be that kind of personality type to start the FBI and run it at that time of the history when the general public was almost rooting for the bank robbers at that point, because obviously the banks were making money off of the poor. We were in a depression, and the general public needed to be turned a little bit. So you needed someone like Hoover to run the FBI back then, and he was a character, that's for sure.
yeah, and that was around I think the same era when John Dillinger.
Yep.
He was a prominent name. And
Dillinger and Bonnie and Clyde and all those people that made the FBI what they are.
yeah, before this show goes,
Didn't know you were going to get a history lesson on Running Point, did you?
Yeah.
Did you?
Before we give too much of a history lesson, it goes too far off the rails. I guess the one other thing I had locally, and then I wanted to get into a little bit of a taste of, since we're going up
I know where you want to go,
each
Scott.
other this week, I want to get a little bit of a taste of the Cleveland-Kansas City game, one of the marquee games in the NFL coming up this week. But before we do that, Anthony, I wanted to ask you about a question I posed. I'm going to send it to our good friend and the guy that started it all here for us and has been vital to YSN's success, DJ Yoakley. I'm going to send him a question that has to relate to this team. But I wanted to talk about Mooney football. What do you think has been the biggest reasons for their struggles this year and their 0-3 start? And we know these things are, they're cyclical. They happen in cycles. What goes around comes around. We know one day they're going to get off the mat. They're going to be good again. But I want to know from you, what's the biggest reasons for their struggles this season? And do you ever see them really ever again being a perennial power? Or do you think, they kind of, the field has been kind of leveled out after the days of Don Butchie and then what Fatco did with his 4 national championships? What are your thoughts on the Mooney program right now and their struggles this year?
Well, off the bat, the first thing you have to bring up when you talk about Mooney is the fact that Mooney schedules an extremely tough schedule. I mean, every year. So even when Mooney goes, 3-7, that's a schedule that most teams in their division, and I believe they're division 5, 4, 5. Either way, teams in their division would probably end up, 0-10 against Mooney's schedule 9 times out of 10. So that you have that on their back. Then you have the fact that for whatever reason, the mystique and the intimidation that kind of playing Mooney used to bring doesn't feel like it's there anymore. It feels like Mooney is just not scaring people anymore. You'd see teams make unforced errors against Mooney because they're playing a little tight because it's Mooney. Mooney used to make people go, and it's not happening anymore. Now Mooney's starting to get everyone's best shot because no matter what Mooney's record is, no matter what their history is in the last couple of years, it's still Mooney. Like, people are getting up to play Mooney, and they're getting everyone's best shot no matter what. So when you add that to the fact that they have an extremely tough schedule, it's a mixture of reasons why you could struggle. Their culture is struggling too. Their winning culture. But the one thing they have going for them is they still have a heck of a good defense. They still have a heck of a good athletes there. And they have a heck of a good running game. They just need to find ways to win. I think they need, we talked to Lakeview. We talked about Lakeview football yesterday a little bit. And when Coach Bellino was asked after the game, what do we need to see from Lakeview? They just need to learn how to win. I think Mooney's in this position as a program, and like you said, it's cycles. So they're on a down stretch where they're trying to build back up. And one of the things you have to do when you're trying to build back up is learn how to win. Learn how to make the game-winning plays. Learn how to make the plays to turn momentum in games. So I think Mooney has to work on that winning culture a little bit and getting to learn how to win games. And to your last point, no, I don't think Mooney's done. I don't think Mooney will ever be a program that this kind of goes by the wayside. Mooney will find a way to be relevant again. It's just going to take, it's a cycle. It's going to happen. It's going to take development from the youth. It's going to take buying into the culture from the kids, senior leadership, and things like that. So I do think the field is leveled out a little bit. I think people are starting to catch up with Mooney and all the parochial schools because of open enrollment. It's just inevitable. You're seeing a lot of more public schools be able to compete a little bit better with the Ursulines and the Moonies of the world. But I don't think Mooney is done. I don't think Mooney is ever going to go away. They will be relevant again. Don't worry.
I agree with you. I think it might take a little more time than people expect or some people want, but it's still Mooney. There's still something about that jersey and that helmet, what it means to be Mooney Cardinal. So I do see them rebounding. As far as this year, like you said, Anthony, I really like some of the things they've done defensively. I just think they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit. Little too many self-inflicted wounds. We'll see if they can get that offense really rolling and become more consistent in that area. But you looked at a rough one against Cheney, but before that they were right there against Hubbard after a very slow start in that game. And that was another game where Hubbard on the ground. We talked about their ground attack. Just too much for Mooney to overcome.
And one of the things that I don't think people talk about enough, you walk into Mooney's gym and you see banner, state. I mean, it is full of history and tradition. And, students have to see that every day. And I'm sure it is a lot on the shoulders and a lot of pressure to go into that gym every day and be like, there's a state championship, there's a state championship, there's a state championship, there's a Steel Valley championship. And it's almost to the point where there's no room on the wall anymore. And you're like, we're 0-3. Oh, man. Like, we have to hold up this tradition a little bit. And that's going to be a little bit of pressure on 15 to 18-year-olds.
Yeah, and that leads to something interesting, Anthony. I wasn't going to ask this, but since you brought it up, I think it's really good food for thought for the show today. I just wanted to know from you we have a lot of interest, a lot of things in common. We've been buddies for a long time now at YSN. We're both CP warriors.
Absolutely.
But in knowing that and the fact that, like, you or we've never had the ability to, participate in team sports. But I wanted to ask you and know from you, Anthony, would you rather play for a prestigious school that, precedent is set and they're expected to win every year and known for winning? Or would you rather play for a school that's kind of, been on the outs for a long time and you want to try to build your way back up to that winning culture? What would you rather be a part of? A team trying to get to a successful place, or a team that's already there and you're just kind of expected to be in the playoffs and compete for state every year?
That's a very interesting question because, I went to South Range, and there obviously the legacy of South Range football is apparent, with Coach Higley being there for however long he's been there. And he was there when I was in high school. He was there way before I was in high school. And you dream about putting on that burgundy and gold jersey and being a part of that tradition and that legacy. But at the same time, I think there is something to be said about being a part of a rebuild and maybe the first playoff team that your program has been able to have in 20 years, and to say you were a part of that. That's a tough question. I feel like when you look back on your football career afterwards and you were a part of something like the ladder, something like where you said our program's been down for 20 years and we finally made the playoffs and maybe we won a couple playoff games, that might have a little bit more lasting impact and a little bit more, sentimental value, because you really, really feel like you worked for it. Not to say that the teams that build legacies and have traditions don't work for it, because obviously those traditions and those legacies come from somewhere. But this idea that you're kind of building a team up from nothing and you're raising it from the ranks, and you have 4 years to kind of get a program to the playoffs. I feel like when you're looking back on it, it might mean a little bit more. And maybe as a high schooler, you want to be a part of that. We want to get to the playoffs every year. We want to give ourselves a chance for the state championship. But now when you're older, when you're looking back on your high school career, maybe with age comes wisdom, and maybe you would have rather been a part of a team that kind of built from nothing and rose from the ashes and got your program's first playoff berth or first playoff win or something like that. It's an interesting topic. Good question, Scotty.
And just,
what about you?
Close. Well, that's where I was getting at. I think it's a big reason why I think you would choose this route. And you said you would go this way with it too, Anthony, and you'd rather kind of, build something up from scratch rather than, be part of something that's already established, already very good or elite. And I have to agree. I just think I'd rather be that little engine that could, man, because people like you and me, Anthony, the odds have been stacked against us since we've been alive, but it doesn't mean we can't be successful, and it doesn't mean that it isn't more gratifying when we are successful in doing great things. So that's the kind of stuff I think about, man, is it'd be really cool to win one or multiple state championships, but if you got a program that was nothing and you turn it into something, man, even if it's not quite a state championship. I think that is just so special.
That being said, I mean, like I said, I went to South Range, and there was no bigger aspiration than or like, I can't put into words how much I wanted to put on that burgundy and gold jersey and fight for Coach Yeagley and fight for that established legacy and that established tradition and be a part of it. So there are definitely pros and cons to both, and you can't really you can't say one excuse me, you can't say one's better than the other. I mean, there's definitely something to be said about getting the privilege almost to put on a jersey that has been worn by your Hall of Famers and people like that. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll move on to other stuff you want to talk about and wrap up this Wednesday edition of Running Point. Don't go anywhere. Running Point on YSN Live, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends: shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring. And, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, shop with confidence knowing we're ready to go the extra mile for you. With the largest selection of used vehicles in the Valley, backed by the Greenwood Advantage Warranty. Every one of our vehicles has undergone our own 126-point inspection, so it passes the most important inspection, yours. No other dealership has the extra inventory, gives you extra for your trade, and goes the extra mile for you. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
I think it's really funny that last commercial is "You're never left in the dark," and then it fades to black before I put it on. You're never left in the dark. Fade to black. Anthony Hartwig and Scotty Mincher here with the final moments of this Wednesday edition of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. And Scotty, I know you've been itching to talk about it, so let's talk about this Chiefs-Brown matchup. It's inevitable. What do you want? What are you prompting with this discussion?
Well, first off, Anthony, there's quite a bit I do want to get to, but real quick, I saw, and it's no surprise, I wanted your thoughts on the early odds for the NFL MVP. It's no surprise that your boy Patrick Mahomes is the favorite. Once again, I saw a lot of people are betting on Josh Allen, though. And then, of course, there's the familiar faces, the Aaron Rodgers, who's coming off an MVP, Tom Brady, who has plenty, Lamar Jackson recently won an MVP. Do you think it's going to be one of the heavyweights I named? Or do you think there's a chance we could see a dark horse sneak in there, whether it be a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or even somebody on defense.
I would be shocked if it wasn't one of the big names, if it wasn't like the names you said. I mean, the NFL has set a precedent in the last 10 years that like this is how they vote, this is how the writers vote, this is how they like to have their MVPs. I think it would take a really special season from someone out of nowhere, like Patrick Mahomes did in his MVP year. I don't think a lot of people saw him as an MVP his first year as a starter. It would take something special like that to kind of break through the big names of the league. But there are some people who I think can have that type of season. If I wanted to have a sleeper, and this might be fringe and I might get laughed at, but I think Matt Stafford can have a really big season in Los Angeles.
I think he may not be seen as a sleeper. I like your Stafford pick as a dark horse, but I think somebody like a Justin Herbert, who's coming off a sensational
I hope not.
year. I think Baker is somebody, and I know I'm a little bit biased, but he'd have to do.
I don't think he'll ever put up
great
MVP
things.
numbers. I'm sorry, Scotty.
Well,
his offense is too based on running attack.
You have a point there, but I think Stefanski kind of let him loose in the second half of the season, and they were throwing the ball a lot more. I think they were than early in the first half of the season because that's when his numbers really started to take off. If you look at it, and a couple of those games, he had a better QBR than even Pat Mahomes. So I'm not saying I'd be surprised. I'd be very surprised if Baker ever won an MVP, but it wouldn't shock me. If I'm gonna pick a dark horse, why not go with my guy, Baker Mayfield? Even though I don't think it's likely to happen, I'll go with it. But anyway, regardless of all that MVP talk, and I agree with you. For the most part, I think it's going to be the heavyweights that are going to be going up against each other all year, and the names I mentioned. But getting into the meat of what I wanted to get into finally, this Chiefs-Browns game, Anthony. And I wanted to know from you. I know the Chiefs. It's obvious they're the favorite. They're about 6.5 point favorites. Last time I looked at the spread, I think it's the same as the Bills Steelers game as well. So I know you think they're going to win this game, and Andy Reid and Mahomes have been so great in September. But I wanted to know from you. I love the two-part questions. Number one, Anthony, what one thing scares you the most about this matchup against the Browns? What gives you the most fear about this matchup? And then number two, other than obviously the otherworldly Pat Mahomes, because I do think he's like some alien form or something. Other than Pat Mahomes, what gives you the most confidence that the Chiefs are going to win this game?
The thing that scares me the most, and this is easy, I think every Chiefs fan is terrified right now of the O-line. It's an unproven O-line. It's brand new. It's put together by, quality Orlando Brown, quality names, but you still yet to see it in action. And until you see it in action, the only image I have of my offensive line is Patrick Mahomes running for his life in the Super Bowl. That's all I got. So, of course, you're terrified of the offensive line. The Browns have a great pass rush. If they don't have to blitz, we're in trouble. We need to make them blitz to get to Patrick Mahomes, because Mahomes has proven against the blitz he can pick apart a defense. But if the Browns can get to him with 4 or 5 guys running and then drop everyone else back in coverage, that's when the Chiefs get in trouble. So offensive line scares me the most because, like I said, it's a brand new offensive line. I think only one guy from last year's offensive line is on that squad. And then I include Tardif, even though he wasn't on the team last year. He's still, chemistry-wise, he's still a part of that offensive line because he's been with the Chiefs for a while and then took last year off to be a doctor in Canada. But it's still a brand new offensive line that makes me nervous. Biggest reason other than Patrick Mahomes I think we can win, I'm going to say our secondary. I love our safeties. I like Sorensen. I like, Tyrann Mathieu. I think he's, besides his personality, which is shaky at best, on the field, probably one of the best safeties in the league. And then our corners. Our corners are very good. So I like our secondary. I think there are going to be points in the game where Baker Mayfield's going to have to make throws, and I trust our secondary to make that hard on him.
How much, if at all? Now, last I heard, he was still in the COVID protocol, but I did hear that sources said he was expected to play. But let's say worst case scenario, the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, cannot play in this game. How much does it change your thinking on this game, if at all?
That's a big blow because he's a guy that the defense uses in so many different spots. They put him as a cornerback. They put him as a safety in the box. They put him as a free safety back. He's the emotional leader of the team, no doubt. I don't know if he wears the green dot for the communications or not. I think Anthony Hitchens, linebacker, wears the green dot. But he's still big in communication back there in the secondary. It would be a big blow for the Chiefs if Tyrann Mathieu isn't able to play. He got the big pick against Cleveland in that AFC divisional game. So, yeah, it would be a big blow. I like Dan Sorensen. I would still be confident in that defense. Chris Jones is a great pass rusher. But, that'd be a big loss for the defense if Honey Badger wasn't able to play.
And then a final question I have for you, Anthony. A guy that didn't play during the last time these two teams matched up that is going to play in this game is Odell Beckham Jr. He didn't play in last year's divisional matchup because he had that torn ACL and had surgery, was in the process of recovering. Do you think that does Odell playing in this game, does that scare you at all? Or are you one of those guys that believe in the narrative that Baker is better off without Odell and Odell might hinder their chances even more in this game compared to if he wasn't even playing?
The thing Odell Beckham does, and this is, he makes every defense put probably their best defender, their best corner on Odell Beckham just out of respect, which means the other Browns wide receivers are going to get not the best. And you had a good receiving room. You have a really good receiving room. Don't get me wrong. Even though you guys run the ball a lot, you have a really good receiving room with Peoples Jones and with all the guys you have, Landry, of course.
Hollywood
Higgins, who fumbled.
Yeah. You had to bring that up, didn't you? Just a knife in the back.
A lot of people, that play was discussed for months and months, and my stance on it was if he would have just done –
is dirty.
It was an unfortunate nickname that we have for Dan Sorensen, but if Hollywood Higgins would have just done what you're supposed to do and gone down and not tried to be a hero and leap into the end zone, Browns have first and goal. with, plenty of time left, and they have one of the best running backs in the league back there, probably score a touchdown. You get the effort. You love the effort. And Stefanski even said after the game, you can't knock the effort, but he said it. I think Baker said it, and I believe even Hollywood Higgins said it. It just wasn't the smartest football play to try to dive for the pylon in that situation. So, the hit wasn't the dirtiest thing I've seen in the world. It definitely was. Probably should have been a penalty, helmet-to-helmet contact. But at the same time, you don't stretch the ball out at the goal line in that situation. So,
one final rapid-fire question playing off that. This is a quick yes or no. I know it benefited you in that game, Anthony, and you guys ended up beating the Bills and getting to another Super Bowl. But do you like that rule that if the ball is fumbled out of the back of the end zone, the opposing team gets it? Or do you think the NFL should seriously look at that and change the rule?
I like that rule. I think the end zone is treated with this. It should be too. It's treated with this importance, this higher class part of the field. If you fumble out of the end zone and it goes out of the end zone and out of bounds, that's a touchback. It's a touchback if you punt it out of the end zone. If you have possession of the ball and then you lose it and it goes out of the end zone, no matter what kind of situation it is, it's a touchback. It's a touchback if it's a punt. If it's a touchback if it's a fumble. It's a touchback for the other team. I like the rule. Don't think it should change.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on, Anthony.
You are welcome, Scotty.
Grateful for it.
Always good to have you on. Want to take a quick time to preview tomorrow's show. We have Brandon Hanna, the head coach of Jefferson football, joining us at 12:30 tomorrow. And we also have Brian Shaner, head coach of Middle Ridge football, joining us at 1:15. So join us tomorrow, 12 to 3. Power Hour coming up next. Don't miss that. And we'll be back tomorrow, 21 and a half hour break for Running Point. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.